Okay, Shabbat Shalom. We're going to start the afternoon study in just a minute. Let me just get things set up. I'll put something on. In the meantime, let's see here. No, there's something specific, but okay. There that goes. So beautiful. I can't find it. Okay. All right. It doesn't matter. That's it. Okay. Ariella, it says you will need to connect your mic/cam before you can add them to the stream. So I have no way of adding you. I don't know if you can hear me or not. Did I do a share? welcome, Bruce. We're going to be starting in just a couple of minutes. I'm just getting one or two things set up.
Okay. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. And you?
Also, thank God.
Interaction with what's his name again?
Say again?
Professor Hansen. You'll have to tell us about your interaction with that professor. What's his name?
Ah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was nothing, unfortunately.
1 second here. Bruce, you sound like you're underwater. I can hear you. Okay, we're gonna get going now. Let me stop this screen and let's do this. Share. I think I need window. Torah. Share. Even though I want to have it in this thing. Okay, that should be better. 1 second here. And I can stop this. And now we can go over here. I can turn this back on. Go like so. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna start the study. This morning's study, we read through the entire Parsha in Hebrew. That's what I've been doing lately, is in the morning study, first and foremost, just reading through the entire Parsha, because otherwise we never finish it. And stopping just very, very briefly to make a couple of points here and there. But now we're gonna go back into some portions of the Parsha and explore them further. So I should point out what I pointed out this morning, that this Parsha is probably my favorite Parsha of the entire Torah. I know they're all great, they're all winners, but this one is my favorite one. And this is also, as I mentioned a lot earlier, we can consider this Parsha, and specifically one verse in this Parsha, the climax of the entire book of Genesis, right? So, if we were to think of the Torah as a book of a story or a book of literature, it's much more than that. But every story has its build up and then its climax, right? So if you're watching, I don't have to explain it. You'll all know what that means. So we have the climax of the entire book of Genesis. Everything after that is kind of like a downhill roll towards tying up loose ends. But the climactic moment occurs in this portion, and very specifically, it's this verse. Let me bring it up in the Hebrew.
Why don't you ask people what they think?
Okay. Well, what do you think, Bruce?
Me?
Yeah.
I think it's when Joseph says that it was God who sent him to Egypt, not his brothers. In other words, everything is orchestrated by the Creator. I think that's the pivotal point.
Okay, I mean it's definitely part of that talk, but forget about so that's a theme, right? That everything's orchestrated by the Creator, definitely. But if we just take the narrative of the story, I would say that. Well, does anyone else want to render an opinion? Since Bruce correctly suggested that this should be interactive, and oh, here we go. Someone named Tony. Hi, Tony. I don't know who you are. And there's another person. There's Ariella. Oh, wow. Okay. Got a lot of people.
You have your camera
Hi,
on?
Ariella.
Hi, am I there now?
You are there.
Great. I had to go out of my browser and go into a different one.
Okay, very good. Very good. So you're in Colombia now, yeah?
Yes, we're in Colombia, thank God. Yep. Ben's trying
Wow.
to get on his
wow.
phone
What a
too.
story. My God. So I
Yeah.
don't know if you want to. Excellent.
Not the District of Columbia, but Columbia.
What was the question, Bruce?
I said not the District of Columbia.
No. This is Colombia, South America. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow, how exotic.
How
exotic.
Oh, it is. It is. We felt that we needed to come this way. It was very difficult to deal with the regulations in the government there with the coronavirus, and saying now that the 4th jab is going to be mandatory, and we haven't done any of them.
Wow, good for you. Why Columbia though?
Same here, and never will.
We did a lot of research, and Colombia had the only requirement to come into the country is that there was no requirement, not even a negative test at this point. However, 24 hours after we got in here, they changed that regulation. So we came through the eye of a needle. And what we're understanding is there's about 15 million people that are not even registered with the government here, people that have been born out in these little ranchos. That, I mean, it's going to be very, very difficult to force this on people if they don't even have ID. And so it's a huge country. There's lots of little ranchos. There's lots of little places. And another good thing, because I've lived in Latin America before for about 10 years, I know that the Latin people, once they love you, they will protect you. If you live, I mean, I used to live in a little village in Mexico, and even the Catholic priest would send people to me because I was a naturopath, and a lot of people get well with the medicine I gave to them. And at that, you know, it's just been a long journey, but it's like I was totally anti-Catholic, of course, but the people would come and they'd listen to me and they'd start thinking about things, and pretty soon I had a following. So, you know, here they're already, I've got a group of young girls around me. One girl is actually Druze. Funny, she's been born in Colombia, but she's an Arab and she wants to study Torah. So what a cool thing. And she said, I'm going to be your first student.
Wow.
So that is really exciting. And so we're going to go for a walk with them tomorrow. But of course, they know nothing about the Torah.
What a journey.
Hi, Maui.
Hey, how are you, Ben?
Oh, Baruch Hashem, I'm pretty good. I'm exhausted.
I can imagine.
4 weeks, no sleep. And as Ari said, it was through the eye of a needle. And I mean, literally, we had hours to spare. Hours.
Wow.
And incredible. I'll do a write-up about it and send it to you so you can see how much fun it was.
Yeah, Ben was having trouble getting into he couldn't see you from his phone, and I didn't have a look at the check what happened there. So anyway, he's here with me on my phone now, so we're both here.
Hi, Bruce. Sorry, I didn't see you there.
Are you guys in an Airbnb or something like that? Or are you already renting or buying a place? Or you already own a place there? Or?
No, not yet. We're waiting for an apartment to open up, and we still are not sure. We're looking at a piece of land up country, which for about $25,000 we can get a couple of hectares of land, and there's people that'll build a nice house for you for about $3,000. Incredible, a completely bamboo house. So we're looking at that, but also we've got this nice little group of people that are wanting to associating and wanting to learn here in Medellin, and it's very interesting. So we're just praying to Jehovah to guide and direct our steps, because obviously we don't have full knowledge of what we should be doing.
Wow. And it's I mean, I guess it's kind of just a let me just get.
But the house we're living in is actually a very, very Catholic lady that is It's a friend of Maritza, who is she did the Karaite course for 2 years, and she's the one that reached out to us, and she's helped us with everything. So she's living all alone here as a Karaite. So now she's just so thrilled to have us here with her. We're going to go over and have an afternoon study. It's like 3 blocks away from the house. But this gal is one of her best friends, and she's opened her house to us, and she's going to charge us like $60 a week. I mean, it's super cheap. It has everything. We can use everything, and it's great.
And
so
I mean, I guess it's a stereotype that Colombia is not safe, and especially whatever the name of the city
Medellin,
is again, Medellin or whatever, because it's associated with the drug gang, the Medellin drug gang, but it's safe there.
It is. I mean, if you go
like
to certain
any big
parts,
city, it's just like Chicago. Right. You go south side Chicago, you're looking for trouble. You go up in where the Mexican mafia is in Chicago, you're looking for trouble. East side St. Louis, you're going to get your throat slit. It's just like any other place. You keep your eyes open, your ears open, and you know. You don't flash your phone around and your jewelry and your watches or anything like that. You just
but it's a process of getting the people on your side. I mean, once they love you, they will go with you, and they'll say, "Don't look at that. Don't go there. Don't do this," and they're protecting you. And in fact, they've said that about the coronavirus, that the people the police are not the kind that would actually come after you, because they believe that their people are sacred. There's something that they have to. I mean, even with the mask wearing, if we've been told like twice, pull up your mask. Well, you know, it's very easy to go almost everywhere without the mask here. They're not bothering you, so the whole thing looks like a little bit easy.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah. I just listened to your talk just this morning. Finally got internet that works.
Yeah.
What's your name?
I'm sorry.
Your name.
My name.
Benjamin.
Yeah, Benjamin.
Benjamin. Okay. Benjamin.
Yeah. His English name is Tony, but I'm going to hear on WhatsApp because we had to go to a new phone.
Yeah. Well, this was the couple that I wanted to get together with. Wanted to get you to get together with them. They were living on the northern border. In Shlomi, was it?
Shlomi, yeah. We were up in Shlomi.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it up there. But as Ari said, you live outside of Jerusalem, don't you, Bruce?
Yeah, in Gush Etzion.
Yeah. So you know the situation with Bennett and all his cohorts, and I'm just not. I wasn't impressed, and I wanted to get out before they tried forcing all the vaccines and everything, because that's. I'm sorry, but I love the land. The land was beautiful and the people were wonderful, but that government is just destroying the country.
Yeah, we're here. We're here fighting. We're here fighting it.
But I would have loved to have fought it. I've been through 6 wars, and I'm just tired of fighting it. I've just, you know. There comes a point where you can't do it anymore. Yeah, my body's too broken to do it anymore.
Do you have an Australian or New Zealand accent?
Australian.
Australian.
No, I've not. I'm English by birth, but I've lived in the States for many years. I lived in Africa for many years. I've lived all over. I haven't lived in England for over 40 years. Oh. So it's a pretty mishmash accent, I guess.
Okay.
All right,
guys. Should we get down to some Torah?
Please. We love
Let's
this.
do
This
it.
portion is one of my favorites. I tell you, that Judah thing.
That's what I was just saying. It's my favorite portion. I said they're all great.
love
You know, they're all winners, but this one happens to be my personal favorite.
Yeah, he's such an incredible,
Yeah, it really is.
emotional.
Yeah, it really is, without a doubt. And I was speaking with Bruce, and I was saying that this is, it's very emotional, and it's very full of emotion in it, and but it's also the climax of the entire storyline of the Book of Genesis. Basically, occurs in this parsha, right? Everything is ultimately leading up to this. I was saying to Bruce, I was asking Bruce. I'm just turning this down a little bit. I was asking Bruce, what is the one verse in parsha, which, in my opinion, at least, it represents the entire climax. It's one verse which basically represents the entire climax of the entire Book of Genesis. In other words, everything's leading up to this, and then this one verse is like, it's like letting out air that you've been holding in for holding your breath for 3 minutes. Everything from that point just kind of is downhill coasting, right, towards the end of the book, more or less. So Bruce had given me one verse, and I wonder if you guys want to also render an opinion. If not, I'll say what my opinion
a verse that sums it up, huh?
I wouldn't say sums it up. That everything else is leading up to that verse. In other words, it's the climax of the entire story that's given to us in Genesis, from the beginning of the world up into that point.
Wow.
Okay, well, let's see. I like where he has taken responsibility. Judah has taken responsibility, because if he doesn't, his father will die. That part.
Yeah.
Okay, since you shared, I'll share with you what I said. And that is,
please.
when Joseph says, "You didn't send me here to Egypt, God sent me." In other words, God is the chief orchestrator of all things, even things that seem bad.
Yeah.
It's the work of the chief orchestrator.
Amen.
Right. Amen. And that's exactly the story of all of our lives.
Yep.
Do you know what, Malik? It's funny. The last, if I may interrupt a second.
Sure.
Funny, our last few years together have been so following things that are happening in Torah. Everything seems to line up, and it's almost like we've come down to Egypt and we're reaping the benefits of Egypt right now. It's incredible.
I hear you.
Yeah, we had to leave the land because the land was devastated, and and we've landed up in Egypt, where it's a land of plenty at the moment, and it's just incredible the way things have.
Things are so cheap and food is so good. I mean, Israel has wonderful fruit.
Oh,
and everything,
yeah.
But you come here and the price is like a third or less, and you can live here for about $800 a month. I mean, total. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So Colombia is like your Egypt.
But very much. We'd come down to get the produce, and well, it's just
It was a very big disappointment. I mean, we went believing that we were going up there to embrace Mashiach, and it was going to come very soon, and we didn't realize that this dark Greek Hellenism was going to hit, and the whole country would be taken over, and the people were going to start dying by hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people. The old people dying alone, locked down with nothing and being jabbed against their will. All of that stuff, it horrified us, and we've got to get out where we can live and we can breathe. And because I used to, as a younger person, be wanting to go into protests and this kind of thing, but at this point, I haven't felt that was my calling, is to go up and protest, because partly I don't speak modern Hebrew. We read Hebrew in the, my Hebrew is so limited. I could never go up to a policeman and tell him he's doing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That's
All right.
what my sister said.
Yeah. Okay. So back to Torah. I think maybe what we could do is this. Let's start at the beginning of the parsha. So we know the story that happened before. The cup, Joseph's magic chalice, so-called magic chalice, was found in Binyamin's bag, and now Joseph has decided to take it, or Joseph's assistant sent everyone back to Egypt, and now they're going to hold Binyamin in jail and send everyone back to their father. And that's
Wait a minute. Melech,
yeah.
What was your verse that encapsulates?
Well, we'll get to it. We're going to get to it. Okay.
You're keeping us in more suspense.
Yeah. So, and so that's where we are right now. And actually, it was, let's see. I love this verse. This is something I noticed last week, which I pointed out. I'm going to go back just a couple of verses to the last week's parsha. One second. Okay. So in verse 14, Yehuda starts speaking to Joseph, and he says in verse 16, and I'm just going to turn that. Let me just
in what chapter?
A little bit here. I think, guys, what I'm going to do is, I don't know how to do this because there's a lot of background noise. So I think I'm going to mute.
Put us on mute, yeah, because we've got a lot of background noise.
Yeah. And, okay, I'm going to mute you guys. And if you want to talk, just let me know, please. I want you to interact as much as you want, but just give me just somehow let me know, post a comment or something like that if you want to say something. All right. So I'm going to mute you guys. Yosef, I'm sorry, verse 16. And Yehuda said, what shall we say to my master? I'm gonna mute Bruce. I'm gonna mute you too because I'm getting a lot of background noise. And if you guys want to speak, just let me know. Like raise your hand or just send me a text or something. Okay. So what can we say to my master, to Joseph? How can we justify this? The fact that the chalice has been found in Binyamin's sack. God has revisited or found or discovered the. I'm sorry. 1 second. I just close the shades here because I have the sun right in my eyes. That's better. God has revisited or found, or paid back the sin of your servants, meaning the brothers. Behold, or let us be slaves, or we now agree to be. We will now be slaves to my master, to Joseph, both us and the one who, in whose sack or with whom was found the chalice, meaning Binyamin, right? So basically, Yehuda offers, or basically says, okay, we will now be slaves to you, Joseph. And Joseph's response is Yomer Halila li me'asot zot. God forbid I should do such a thing. The person with whom the chalice was found, he will be my servant, he will be my slave. And you go back up to your father in peace. Okay? So Yehuda offers for everyone to be slaves, and God says, God forbid. And Joseph says, God forbid. just Benjamin, just the one with whom the chalice was found, will be my slave, and you go back up to your father. So here's an interesting thing, which is that Yehuda offers for, basically says, we'll all be your slaves. Okay? And Joseph says, no, just Benjamin's gonna be a slave, the rest of you go. And Yehuda is actually, he's offering a harsher punishment, it would seem, than Joseph actually says in the end, right? Yehuda wanted all of the brothers to be slaves. Joseph says, no, Benjamin, just you will be my slave, and the rest of you go up to your father. But I would claim that Joseph's punishment is actually worse than what Yehuda offered. And I'm curious as to why you guys think I'm saying that. And I'll unmute everybody, I guess. Or just comment if you want to say something. Do you guys?
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that this was actually pushing pushing the problem to spark whether there was, a test for the brothers, what would they do if Benjamin was taken away?
Yeah, something along those lines.
And also the fact that if they all stay as slaves, they never have to see their father again. Not that
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. It's actually worse punishment, and Joseph understood this very well. It's actually worse punishment for him. It's less of a punishment for Yehuda was actually trying to save his own behind by saying, let's all be slaves. Then he doesn't have to face his father and say Benjamin is gone. Okay, because that was his father's ultimate fear, that something would happen to Benjamin, that Benjamin would not return, right? And in fact, back when it was Reuven who said, if I don't bring Benjamin back, kill my own two sons. And then Yehuda swears to his father, I'll bring him back, or else I've sinned to my father for eternity. And so now Yehuda's actually trying to get out of facing the real music. He'd rather be a slave for the rest of his life than to have to face his father and say Benjamin is gone. So he's actually downplaying it, right?
Yeah.
For sure. And then Joseph, who understands the dynamics much better than the brothers could possibly ever know, says, no. Just Benjamin's going to be a slave. You go back up and tell your father. Okay? He understood exactly what he was doing. He wanted to get it in one last time. He really wanted to punish these brothers for what they did before he revealed himself,
That's right.
You can almost see in the storyline that he's really torn. On the one hand, right, at a certain point, he goes in the other room and cries. When he sees Benjamin, and he's really torn. He's almost acting erratically, but he just knows he has to. It has to come full circle. There has to be karma here. These brothers have to be punished for what they've done before he can feel comfortable revealing himself and telling them what's really going on. Right.
Absolutely. So, he wasn't liberal saying, oh, well, everybody deserves a right, Right. No, you have to hold people accountable for their sins. And he had to see that they'd changed. They'd really changed, or they'd come into Egypt and just make everything for themselves.
Right. And it's a good point. It's the liberal view, which is, just, forgive and forget and turn the other cheek and all this kind of stuff. It leaves a lot of circles unclosed. It leaves a lot of, issues unresolved. And it kind of leaves, you this feeling of things hanging. And that's when too many things hang, and are not resolved. That's when bad things start happening, whether it's in an individual person or a society or whatever the case may be. That's why Christian society is ultimately doomed to failure, because they don't actually end up closing that circle. That's why the Torah is so much wiser, because, if someone kills if you kill another person, you will certainly die. That's coming full circle, right? That's right. When you talk about the death penalty, for instance, people seem to, let me just get this screen set up off. So people seem to say, well, it's there's what is it? I've heard the argument, well, what does it do if you kill the other person? Is that going to bring back the person that already died? It doesn't have anything to do with that. It has to do with closing some kind of karmic loop in the universe. That if it's too many of these karmic loops are left open, then the foundations of the society start shaking, right? And liberalism is actually not liberalism. It's actually It's actually in a certain sense, it's destructive. You know, it's ultra. Well, I don't want to use the word ultra conservatism, but it actually ends up creating more violence than it claims to solve in the end, because these
Well, the same thing that happens with the taking away of the sacrifices. Obviously, people just get by with it. I mean, when they had to take a lamb, their favorite lamb, the lamb that was at the head of the flock, that was the best, they had to give the best to Jehovah for their sin. I mean, it was like, no, hey, don't do this anymore.
Mm-hmm. Right?
You know, it had to cost them something, and now it doesn't cost anything, especially like in the religion of Christianity and other pagan religions. It's like, oh well, you've already been forgiven by the blood from a long time ago. So, you know, you're okay. Oh yeah, you'll do it again. It's okay. No, it isn't okay. Right.
It's a good point. It's a good point. Yeah, lack of punishment is not a good thing. It's ultimately creates more violence and all the bad things that, you know, violence and stealing and all of the horrible things in society. So, at any rate, so getting back to the narrative here with Yosef. So Yosef, who understands the dynamics very well, right? It's his family after all. You know, says, okay, no, you guys, you know, Benjamin stays, and you guys. I'm gonna mute again because there's a lot of background noise. So Benjamin stays, and you guys. Oh, okay. And oh, that's a good idea. You know what? Instead of me muting, let's do this. Unmute. Mute. Maybe everyone just can just mute themselves, and then you want to speak up, then just turn your microphone on. That way it's not controlled by me. You know? I think that's a much better system. So please, if you're not speaking, just mute yourselves. So Yosef is ostensibly giving less of a punishment, but it's actually far worse a punishment, because it's forcing the brothers to go back up and face their fathers, and that's the breaking point. Now Judah, he pours it all out, right? This is it. This is the next speech. This is basically, you could say this is right at the climax. This is like, you know, where everything is, you know, this is like the final scene before the climax, or this is now like right at the summit, right, of the entire book of Genesis. And that's the speech that Yehuda gives before Yosef. Everything here is completely from the heart, right? And Yosef obviously recognizes it and realizes after this speech that it's time for this, you know, this charade or this game to end. It's time for him to reveal himself. So let's maybe go through this in the Hebrew, and then I'll just render translation into the English. And if anyone has any comments, then please unmute your mic and say, you can stop me at any time and say, I have a comment, or I have a question, or whatever. Okay, so we're in Genesis chapter 44, verse 18. And Vayigash elav, and that's where we get this is the beginning of the parsha. Vayigash is the name of the parsha. Vayigash elau Yehuda, v'yomer bi Adoni. And Yehuda approached Joseph and said, Bi Adoni, please, my master, Yidaber na avdecha davar be'azne Adoni. Please let your servant speak a word in the ears of my master. Right. So very, very kind of a subservient language. Right. He's really, really making himself subservient and to Joseph. And let not his, it's all in the third person, but I'll just translate it again. It's not word for word translation, but paraphrase. And please don't be angry with your servant, because you are like Pharaoh. You're just as great as, you know, you are almost like Pharaoh. Verse 19. Adoni sha'al et avadav lemor hayesh lechem av o ach. My master, meaning Joseph, asked his servants, meaning the brothers, lemor, saying, hayesh lechem av o ach. Do you have a father or a brother? Unomer al Adoni. And we said to my master, yesh lanu av zaken. We have an elderly father, v'yeled zikunim katan, and he has a small child. Who small child who he gave birth to when he was old. Yeled zikunim. How do you say that again? A son of his old age, or a child of his old age. A small child of his old age, referring to Binyamin. which is interesting because soon after this, Yaakov comes down with Binyamin, and then it lists all of the descendants that come down of Yaakov that come down. It says 70 people, and Binyamin has 5 children, and it's not much later than this. So he's not a small boy at this time. All right, he's not like 8 years old or something like that.
I have an observation.
Yes. Bruce.
They're talking to Joseph, and he says, "You are like Pharaoh."
Right.
Wasn't Pharaoh considered in their ancient religion like a god or God?
Yeah, for sure.
And so isn't he in a way saying, because you are like God?
Maybe he's trying to butter that. Maybe he's trying to butter up Yosef. But I don't think that's what it means there. In all honesty, I think he's just saying you're as powerful as. He's just saying the facts that Pharaoh has basically made him second in command out of all of Egypt, you know, and you know, you have the same status practically as Pharaoh. And it doesn't say you are Pharaoh, right? It says specifically ki kamocha kefaro, literally as you are, or ki kamocha, because as you are, or like you.
No, the opposite. As Pharaoh is, so are you.
Okay, I mean, either way, his equivalents can go either way. It's you know, you could say x, if x equals y, then y equals x, but either way, I don't think it's you know, you are basically Pharaoh. It's saying kikamocha kefaro, you are like Pharaoh. Okay. At any rate, neither here nor there. What were we just saying? Oh yeah, so I was pointing out, we'll see later in the parsha that Benjamin has 5 sons when he comes down to Egypt, which is not much later than this, because the only thing that happens between Joseph revealing himself to the brothers and Yaakov coming down is the brothers basically go back up to Canaan and they get Yaakov. And when Yaakov comes down with his family, it mentions again all of the descendants that come down with him, and it mentions for Benjamin five sons. So either he worked really fast, or when it says Yeled Zikunim Katan, right, a small child of his old age, then that's kind of a euphemism, right? Maybe Yosef is, you know, at this point Yehuda doesn't know who Yosef is, so maybe he's again trying to butter him up or play on his, you know, subconsciously play on his heartstrings. Or alternatively, maybe it means that, you know, when he was born, you know, when he was a small child, or when he was born, he was like the small child of his old age. He still thinks of him.
Another question or observation. Another observation.
The thought, Bruce, sorry for 1 second. I mean, he thinks of him as the little baby of the family still, like a Yeled Katan, like a little boy. Yeah, go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah, later on in the parsha, you'll see that all the sons are listed and their sons.
Right.
And Binyamin has the most.
Yeah, I think. Mm-hmm.
Yet when the tribes come into Israel,
right,
Binyamin is like the smallest. It doesn't seem logical.
Well, I mean, a lot can happen in 10 generations, you know?
Yeah, no, I'm saying. It kind of is counterintuitive.
I suppose so, but then again, you could see, you know, Binyamin was always kind of, he was always kind of subsumed into other tribes. I mean, he's basically almost like an extension of Yosef, because he's Rachel's only other son. Yeah, in the sense that it's the little brother of Yosef, you know what I mean? So he's always like grouped together with Yosef. And when they come into the land, Benjamin is basically his tribal inheritance is right next to Judah's tribal inheritance, right? And later, basically Judah and Benjamin are the 2 tribes of the southern kingdom.
Okay, it'll be interesting. When we get later on in Torah to see the census that was taken. How many were from each tribe? And I think Benjamin was the fewest, but here you see that the progeny of Benjamin is the most. So
yeah, again, I think a lot can happen in 10 generations. It is, I guess, a bit strange.
A lot did happen. Obviously, a lot did happen, but it just seems funny that he has the
Yeah.
most here, and
Yeah.
when they enter Canaan, they have the least.
I hear you. That is true. That is true and ironic. Okay, so we'll go on a little bit. Okay, so now Yehud is saying, talking about Benjamin, verse 21. V'tomer el avadecha horiduhu elai, and you said to your servants, to the brothers. Again, this is Judah speaking to Yosef. Bring him down to me. Wasimani eini alav, and I'll put my eye on him. I'll take a look at him. Verse 22. V'nomer el adoni lo yuchal na'ar lazov et aviv. And we said to my master, again, it uses the word na'ar, the young boy, okay, the youth cannot leave his father. Mezav et aviv wamed. And if he leaves his father, he will die. His father will die. Okay? V'tomer el avadecha, and you said to your servants, Im lo yarad achichem hakaton itchem, lo tosifu nirot panai. If you don't bring your little brother down with you, then you will not be allowed to see me again. Okay? Verse 24. Ahi ki alinu el avdecha avi v'naged lo et divrei adoni. And so it was when we went up to our servant, to your servant, my father, and told him these words, the words of my master. Again, it's every time it says master, it means Joseph, and every time it says servants, it means brothers, right? He's speaking to him in the third person, calling him my master, and referring to themselves as your servants. Verse 25, Yomer avinu shuvu, Yomer avinu shuvu, shivru lanu me'at ochel. And eventually our father said, go back and buy us a little bit of food, right? Verse 26, when Omer lo nuchal la redet im yesh achinu hakaton itanu v'yaradnu, and verse 26, and we said we cannot, and we said to Yaakov, to our father, we cannot go down unless, and here the word im means unless yesh achinu hakaton itanu, unless our little brother is with us. I'm sorry. If our little brother is with us, then we can go down. Because we will not be allowed to see that the man's face, meaning Joseph's face, if our little brother is not with us. Verse 27, Yomer avdecha avi elenu. Atem yadatem ki shnayim yalda li ishti. And my father, your servant, my father said to us, you know that my wife gave birth to two children. Okay, I'm paraphrasing here, right? And notice how here it's interesting because it says yadatem ki shnayim yalda li ishti, my wife. When he says my wife, he doesn't say one of my wives. He says my wife. His real wife in his eyes is Rachel, right? Not Leah and not Zilpah and not Bilhah. Verse 28. V'yitzeh me'iti v'omar ach tarov toraf. So this is again Yaakov. This is now Judah quoting Yaakov to Joseph. And one went away from me, or one went out from me, and I said, or I understood that he had certainly been ripped to shreds. He'd certainly been ripped to shreds by a wild animal. Velo ra'itiv ad hena, and I have not seen him until this day. Verse 29. Lekachtam gam et zem me'im panai, and if you take also this one from me, from before my face, referring to Benjamin, v'karahu ason, and if something horrible should happen to him, v'horaltem et sevati b'ra'ash ola, then you will have brought my, they usually translate this as hoary head in evil down to the grave. In other words, you will kill me. This will kill me. Okay. Verse 30. And now, if I go back, if I come to your servant, my father, okay, and the little one, the youth is not with us. And seeing that his soul is wrapped up or is entangled, is tied to his soul, right? And here the word nefesh really means soul in the spiritual sense, right? And this is kind of proof that the word nefesh can mean some kind of spiritual soul or spirit, because it's the only way really to understand this verse. V'nafsho kshura lenafsho. Nefesh can mean different things in the Torah. It can mean a body, right? Like a physical body. But in this case and in some other cases, it's very clear that it means, soul, because it says my soul is tied up with your soul. I don't mean soul in the, like in the Greek sense, spirit, soul, whatever, however you want to translate it. Verse 31, and it shall be when he sees that the little one the youth is not there, umit, he will die. And your servants, meaning again the brothers, will have brought your servants, meaning Yaakov's your servant, our father's hoary head in agony down into the grave. In other words, we will have killed him if that happens. 32, ki abdecha arav et na'ar, because your servant, meaning Yehuda speaking about himself now, basically stood as guarantor, or it stood as guarantor for the youth. Me'im avi, before my father. Lemor im lo avienu elecha v'chatati la'avi kol yamim. If I do not bring him back to you, I will have sinned to my father for all days, for all eternity. Verse 33, V'ata yishev na avdecha tachat na'ar. And now Yehuda offers the ultimate sacrifice, right? Let me be your slave instead of Binyamin, instead of the youth. Eved la'adoni v'na'ar ya'al im echav. And I will be your slave, and let the little one, let Binyamin go up with his brothers. So now Yehuda is offering something even worse than all of them being slaves. Okay, he's offering just himself to be slave. In other words, he'll be separated from his family. He'll be a slave to Pharaoh's assistant down in Egypt for the rest of his life. So Yehuda really cares so much about his father, and that he's willing to sacrifice basically the rest of his life to save his father. The agony of having to not see Binyamin again. Verse 34, Ki ech ele el avi, because how can I go up to my father? V'na'ar enenu iti, when if seeing that when the young one, the youth, is not with me. Pen irei bera'ah asher yimtza et avi, and lest I see the evil that comes upon my father. So that's it. That's Yehuda's impassioned speech. And here, this next verse, I would claim, not the next verse, but coming soon. But this is now the beginning of when Yosef reveals himself. Velo yachol Yosef litapek. Yosef could not hold it in any longer, could not control himself any longer. L'chol hanitzavim alav, to all of those who were stationed around him. V'yikra hotziu kol ish me'alai. Take everyone out of here. Take everyone away from me. Velo amad ish ito. Behit vada Yosef el echav. And there was not another person around him or with him when Yosef revealed himself to his brothers. U'yiten kolo bebechi, and he raised his voice in crying. U'yishma'u Mitzrayim v'yishma beit Paro, and all of Egypt heard, all of the house of Paro heard, as we'll see later. That's just foreshadowing to what's going to happen. And this, I would say, this verse right here, in fact, these next words, I would say, are the actual climax of the entire book of Genesis. Yomer Yosef el echav, and Yosef said to his brothers, Ani Yosef, ha'od avi chai. I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? That's it. In my opinion, those words right there, that is the climax of the book of Genesis. Yosef said to his brothers, or these specific words, I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? And that's it. The whole circle, everything that started with Abraham leaving his land and coming to the land of Egypt, and all that happened to him, and all that happened to Isaac, and all that happened to Jacob, for this act of the Torah, right? The next act is going to be the Exodus 10 generations later. But for this act of the Torah, if this were a play, this would be the climax of the play. I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? The response, "V'lo yachlu echav l'anot oto," and the brothers couldn't answer him. Ki nivhalu mipanav, because they were, it's usually translated as terrified, but I think a better translation would be where they were just shocked. They were completely shocked before him. So that's my opinion of specifically what
totally
the.
Disagree. I totally disagree. If he had the same stature as Pharaoh, he could have sent an emissary to Canaan to check on the well-being of his father and family. He could have done that. Why didn't he do that?
So this is a question that I've contemplated and asked for years. I'll give you my answer, what I think, but let's hear what other people have to say first. This is a very, very important question.
I think he had the personality of being very self-centered. I think today, what do they call it? When people suffer from not being able to relate to the feelings of others, and I think that was Joseph.
Called a sociopath, that's usually
from his youth. Why did he have to share these dreams? So
you're saying Joseph was a sociopath?
Yeah. Why did Joseph have to share these dreams that would demean his brothers and even his brothers and his father? I mean, if he had sensitivity, even in his youth, he wouldn't have shared those dreams.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, he was probably spoiled because he was Rachel's firstborn, and he probably slept in, and he probably didn't get up right away in the morning and go off to work. Instead, he recalled his dreams.
Okay, but don't you think he's learned his lesson by now? It's now 13 years later, more than 13 years later.
Apparently not. Apparently, how many years later?
Well, I figured it out last week. So he was in jail for 13 years, and then he predicted. Oh boy, there's a lot of.
There was 7 years of plenty and 2 more years, so an additional 9 years, 21 years.
Right. So I think the brothers came down in the 3rd year, it says, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I think it was another 8 years on top of the 13 years that he was in jail. So 13 and 8 is going to be 21, 17 plus 21, 37. So he's like 38 years old. It was the 5th year he came down. That's what it was. I figured it out last week, and he was actually around 40 because it says they came down in the 5th year of the famine, if I'm not mistaken. So, it was, wait a second, 20. I can't remember. I did the calculation.
No. It was the 2nd year of the famine.
Yeah, 2nd year. Oh, I'm sorry. 7 years good, 7 good years, and then the 2nd year of the famine. So 9 plus 13 is 22. 22 plus 17 is 39. So he was around 39, maybe 40 years old. Okay. He was around 40 at this point. So it was 23 years after. Yes, I think Ariel, and hold on a second. Go ahead, Ariel.
Okay. All right. I'm thinking that, while that's true that Joseph has very self-centered narcissism, perhaps, at the same time, what had happened to him, he didn't even want to remember his family. I mean, everything had been so chaotic, and it almost seemed like his father had set him up to fail, had set him up to be kidnapped, even though he knew his father loved him. His father wasn't discerning of the attitude of the brothers toward him enough to protect him from being kidnapped. And Joseph just wanted to forget everything that, I think it even says that there. He wanted to forget the past and start a new life. And of course, Jehovah didn't want that to happen. He wanted to conclude the story and to bring something about. So there were problems on both sides, but it would be natural to say, wow, I had such a disaster with my family. I don't even want to remember it.
Yeah, I have to say I agree a lot more with that point of view. I think that it's very common in people's opinions to both put down Yaakov for cheating Esav and to put down Yosef for not, for being selfish and not contacting his family. And I'm against both of those. Yeah, I'm against both of those.
Actually, with the birth of, if you remember, with the birth of his first child, he said that I will forget. If you remember, he was forgetting his family and he was starting a new life. So he actually claimed that. So that's where I got that from.
Yeah, that's a very good point. When Menashe is born, let's even go to that for a second. That's going to be. Oh, that is actually an excellent point, which I hadn't thought about before. But you're 100% right. His brothers sent to Egypt. No, it's before this. Dreams of Pharaoh. So it's going to be around here. Joseph given charge of Egypt. Natan and son of Yomeh Pharaoh and Yosef, the sons of Joseph. Here it is. Yosef Yulad. Shnei Banim. Let's go to the English for this one, just to make things go a little faster. Since Genesis 41:50. Let me go to the English for this one, instead of me trying to translate off the cuff. So verse 50. Before the years of famine came, 2 sons were born to Joseph by Osnat, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On. Joseph named his firstborn Menashe and said, "It is because God has made me forget all my trouble and all my father's household." And in Hebrew, that's verse 51. Let's go back to that. Verse 51. Vayikra Yosef et Shem HaBachor. Menashe, he called him Menashe, ki Nashani Elohim. And Nashani is not a very common verb, but has made me forget. Okay. Et kol amali, and all my troubles, vet kol beit avi, and all my father's household. So I think that is a very, very deep insight right there, that he's actually saying it when he names his son. And I hadn't even thought of that before. So thank you, Ariel. That's a brilliant insight. But I think that's exactly what's going on. Remember, Yosef, this whole situation was forced upon Yosef. He didn't choose to see his brothers. His brothers happened to come down, right? So the whole thing was basically brought back in his face, right? He wanted to forget it. And I'd always said it in a different way, which is he basically had a mental block. He just couldn't deal with it. Sometimes I know in my life, there are certain things where I could just physically do a certain thing, but it's just a mental block. I just can't do it for whatever reason. Something could be right next to me, but until I overcome that mental block, until I overcome that psychological block, I or whoever, you just can't do it. And so I think Yosef, from all the trauma that he had, he was ripped away from his family and as a young boy and sent so far away to be on his own, for the first time ever in his life, basically, and had to go through all he had to be in jail for 13 years, this created some kind of mental block. It created what would be the word? They call it like a learned helplessness or something along those lines. If I were going to get psychological about it, but yeah, go ahead, Bruce.
There are different personalities, and I know that I am guilty of bearing a grudge forever. If someone does me wrong, I'm unforgiving. Right. Forever. And I see it's something that runs in my family too, because I've noticed that with uncles are related to me also. They'll bear a grudge and keep it forever. And all the more reason I'm saying, and I'll go back to this, that Joseph, who is that type of personality, came across and said, "You're all forgiven because it wasn't you, it was God who sent me to Egypt." I mean, that's the wonder of it.
I definitely think that's the theme behind it. Yeah, but I don't think that Yosef was. I think he obviously saw the hand of God in all of this, right? Without a doubt, because he says so explicitly, like you said. But I don't think that's what maybe that had a factor in the emotion. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing was brought upon him. I don't see malice on his part, right? I see more like mental block.
Melech, sleep on it. Sleep on it.
All right. I will sleep on it. No problem. I will definitely sleep on it. And just as a side note, I also don't like it. It seems to be almost like a game, a sport among people and many commentators to badmouth Jacob for cheating Esav. And I don't want to go back to that parsha, but I think that's also very, very incorrect. I think that first of all, it was Rivka who told Jacob to cheat his father out of the or to get the birthright blessing. But number two, I think Jacob realized that with a person like Esav, you can't act in a straightforward manner, because you're the one who's going to end up getting screwed in the end. So anyway, I don't want to go back there, but it almost seems to be sport to kind of like blame Jacob and Joseph for these their these behaviors. But I think there's it's not malice on their part, that there are other explanations. But okay, Bruce, you're certainly entitled to your opinion. I will think about it, but I see it. I see it in a different way. Okay, so where were we? So we're back in chapter 45 now, Genesis 45, and Yosef reveals his identity. Yomer Yosef elechav, ani Yosef od avichai, and the first thing he wants to know is my father still alive? Now, why is that a strange question? I'll throw that out to the audience as well. You guys are muted, Ariel and Ben.
It is very, very strange. I've asked myself many times, why would he ask them that after already knowing for sure that he was there?
Yeah, they already told him. The brothers already told him a bunch of times. Our old father, our father is still right.
Yeah.
So, what do you say?
I don't know. You tell me. Why would he ask him again? Except that now they're on a personal level rather than on a formal level. Is he asking what kind of health does his dad have right now?
Or maybe I think you hit on something that I hadn't even thought about before, but I think it's actually a brilliant insight. Once again, in my opinion, that maybe Yosef thought maybe his brothers were lying to him before, because they had to say what they had to say to basically survive and to get the food and to not be trapped by him, So now that everything's out on the table, now maybe he's asking again: is my father really alive? Were you really telling me the truth? Is my father alive? That I think that's actually a brilliant insight, which I personally hadn't thought of before. My usual explanation is that again, it has to do with this mental block. That before he just he couldn't even perceive in a certain sense that that he couldn't even think about his father in a rational way. He was just so dealing with the whole situation. And now that everything is out in the open, now that everything is like the balloon has burst, now he wants again confirmation: is my father really alive? But I think your explanation is better than my explanation, actually. That it's possible that he thought that the brothers were not leveling with him 100%. Now he wants 100% confirmation that now that everything's on the table, if the father is really alive. But it is a strange question. The question is an excellent question because we see it must be, I don't know, I don't even know how many times, but a bunch of times the brothers explicitly say that their father is an old man and he's alive. In fact, they even say, if I'm not mistaken, earlier in the story, it says our father. Actually, doesn't even Yosef ask, "Your father is alive"? No, I can't remember exactly. I'd have to go back. But basically, the brothers say a bunch of times that their father is alive, right? So it is an interesting question to ask. So okay, anyone else want to make any comments about this particular verse, Bruce? No? Okay. So that's it. Again, if you ask me, the climax of the entire book of Genesis.
One other thing that I just noticed now as we're reading it in verse 7.
Yeah.
It says, Vayishlacheni Elohim lifnechem lasim lechem sha'arit ba'aretz. Why ba'aretz? Because he's saving them in Egypt, not in the land. Why ba'aretz here?
Well, aretz can mean a lot of things. It doesn't always mean the land of Israel. We in modern Hebrew, when we say ba'aretz, we understand that as the land of Israel. But aretz can mean.
Okay, but why? Okay, then why say it at all? What's the purpose of ba'aretz here?
So here I was about to get to that. Here I think it just means aretz can mean earth, just alive, basically.
What does that add? it seems superfluous.
To leave us basically to leave us as a remnant. Well, where's the remnant? It's going to be on the earth, right? It's like a phrase.
Of course on the earth. So why say it?
Because there were, as I see it, it wasn't just the survival of Yaakov's family. The survival of the earth was dependent right here. We've got, I mean, I realize that the verse is pretty much talking about your survival on the earth. But when we look at all the exiles, they were to be ensured. I don't know, this is just a thought I had, that throughout history, Jehovah wanted to ensure their survival on the earth, the entire earth, wherever they would have to go, wherever we would have to be exiled. And also we see that every country in the world was going to Egypt to get survival. So it may not be a personal thing about Israel there. It was definitely for the survival of the Jews, but it also included the entire world.
Okay, so now I have an additional question, the continuation. According to this translation, which is Shimshon Raphael Hirsch translation, his translation, it says, and keep it alive for you by a great deliverance. What's it? Why would the translation say keep it alive for you?
I couldn't tell you, because here in the Hebrew it says L'sum lachem she'erit, Vishlacheni Elohim lefanecha l'sum lachem she'erit, to make or to make for you, or to place for you a remnant. She'erit is a remnant.
Preserve for you a remnant.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Okay. She'erit.
Yeah. Preserve you, meaning not preserve you, preserve for you a remnant. Yeah, sure. What's the problem, Bruce? I don't get it.
Why it? What is it referring to?
Read the sentence again with the it.
Okay, I'll read the whole translation of the translation.
Okay.
And God sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant in the land and keep it alive for you by a great deliverance. Okay, he gives a little explanation here. He says,
well, I could tell you the answer right now, and that's that the Hebrew verb lahachayot is a transitive verb, and so there's an implied object, and there's an implied direct object, and that direct object is he's filling in. Or at least the translation of the translation is filling in by using the word it, and that's very common in the translations. Okay, I'm trying to think of another example offhand, and if I think of one, I'll let you know. But the verb lahachayot is the he feel form. Lahachayot is to keep alive, right? So when you have a transitive verb, right? And the definition of a transitive verb is you guys all know difference between an intransitive and a transitive verb. A transitive verb is an action that occurs and then has an object. Like, for instance, an intransitive verb would be I ate. No, even that's a transitive verb. It can be. It would be I left. Okay, I left, or I went. Okay, that would be an intransitive verb. A transitive verb would be I drank water. Okay, the direct object is water, right? So lahachayot is the he feel form. He feel form, which is often known as the causative, is always not always, but usually transitive. And in this case, it's transitive. It means to keep alive. Well, to keep alive what? And so he fills that in that blank. In the Hebrew, it's implicit, but he fills that in English, it's not implicit. The object there's no such thing that really is an implicit direct object in English. So he fills it in with the word it. That would be the answer to your question.
I'll tell you what Hirsch's explanation is.
Okay.
What's it? Le plita?
The flita, yeah.
Plita gedola is a difficult sentence. He has trouble with it. It's a difficult sentence.
Okay.
The object of a chayot is never expressed with a lamed. See,
Right.
it would be an et. It would be et, not the preposition lamed.
Correct. That's exactly right.
Perhaps
That's what I just
it
said.
means, perhaps it means to preserve the land.
Uh-huh.
For you, for your great salvation. You were the
I-
purpose of this great divine contrivance. And then he questions himself. He says, perhaps.
I would say that's a kind of a drash. I would say that's kind of a midrash on the verb. I don't think that's what it means. I think that if you want to, first of all, lachayot, as I said, not all verbs in the he feel are necessarily transitive. They don't all. But in this case, let's assume it's transitive because it seems like it is from the context. So lachayot, lachem, as you said, or as that explanation there said, lachem is not a direct object; it's an indirect object. It's the dative. It's not the accusative, right? So if I say I drank water for you, and it doesn't make sense, but logically it doesn't make sense. Grammatically, I guess it makes sense. I drank water for you. Then for you would be the indirect object, the dative, and water would be the direct object. So there is no direct object here. There's only a dative. There's only an indirect object, which is for you. And so he's picking up on the fact that it's missing the direct object, filling it in with it, because in the Hebrew it's implicit. In the English, there's no such thing generally as an implicit direct object. But then he's taking a midrash, a drash on that, and saying it's the it is not referring to the she'erit, to the remnant or to the family, but it's referring midrashically to the land, or maybe he's not even saying midrashically. But I would say that's an incorrect interpretation. It's midrashic at best and incorrect at worst.
Melech, of all the philologists of Hebrew, there's none better than Shimshon Raphael Hirsch. And if he is not sure about the meaning of this sentence, I wouldn't be so bold as to be certain about it.
Okay. I hear you. And then again, we could say that of all the commentators on the Torah, that Rashi is considered the best, when in fact he's one of the worst I've ever read, if not the absolute worst I've ever read. He
I agree.
He couldn't find a Torah scroll in an empty room. This guy.
Yeah, I'm talking about philology. About semantics and the language. I mean, he was a great linguist, Hebrew linguist.
I hear you. I'll stand by my explanation, and I think it's the correct explanation. But again,
you're a brave man. You're a brave man.
Huh?
You're a brave man.
Well, I know. What can I say? Sometimes I display a little bit of bravery. Okay. Anyone else want to comment?
Not really. I feel like Melech's interpretation is better. I personally don't read a lot of commentary unless something's really cloudy, because the Hebrew, if you understand the Hebrew, it's pretty clear a lot of times. And so after getting burned with Rashi and all these other commentators, I'm saying, can't Jehovah speak to us directly through his word? And can't I understand? Do I have the capacity to understand it? That doesn't mean that we can't go and look at different commentaries, but when it comes down to it, what is it saying to me?
Right. I definitely don't want to turn this into a pissing contest on who's right and who's wrong, for sure. But if you want, we could check a couple commentaries. We could check Rashi. We could check Robert Alter, who I often refer to. I also have what's his name, Professor. I can't remember his name, but there goes Bruce. I assume he'll be back. I hope he wasn't mad because I insulted his comment.
No.
No, I don't think it's that. He probably just had a technical problem.
I'm going to be running out of battery.
Just for the heck of it, and see how he translates it. Excuse me for one
Okay.
second. Where did I put that? Where did I put that? Just 1 second. Excuse me. Okay, so this is Genesis 45.
7.
Genesis 45:7. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let's check out Robert Alter. So I have to go to my Kindle. Kindle, where'd I put it? Books, Kindle. No, not Kindle, Nook. There we go. And there is, okay, so in 45, so, okay, I gotta go ahead a little bit. Okay. 40. Oh boy, this is gonna go forever. Do it this way, 315. Let's go to around 18. One second here. Chapter 50. Oh God, how did it go so far ahead? Oh boy, 1 second. Damn it. This thing takes forever sometimes. 383. 34, maybe around here. Chapter 43. Chapter 44. Chapter 45. Chapter 45, verse 7.
Amen.
So Robert Alter says, and he doesn't have a comment on it, but he says, God has sent me before you to make you a remnant, to make you a remnant on earth. So by the way, Robert Alter understands, as we said before, Ba'aretz. Remember Bruce was saying that it means the land of Israel, or so here Robert Alter translates that as earth. So he agrees with me on that one. All right, but I'm going to mute you guys, okay? Or better yet, Ariella, can you just mute your mic and then you can unmute if you want to talk, because I don't want to be muting anybody. Yeah. Okay. So so Ba'aretz, remember we were asking about that word. So Robert Alter translates that as earth, meaning not a specific land like Israel or Egypt, but the entire earth. And to preserve life. And to preserve life, for you to be a great surviving group. Okay? So he renders lachayot, this verb that we were talking about, to keep it alive, is what the translation of Hirsch said. What Robert Alter says is to make you a remnant on earth and to preserve life. So to preserve life is how he translates this verb lachayot. Okay, so he kind of does a little trick here, because he makes it sound, he's actually a brilliant translator, and he keeps the transitive nature of the verb lachayot in his translation, but he actually does a little trick here, which is hard to catch if you're not staying alert. But he he takes lachayot and basically breaks it up into two verbs, making preserve, or two words making preserve the verb, the transitive verb, and life the object. And that's a little bit of a trick, because the verb lachayot does not imply preserve. It in itself implies keep alive or preserve life. So he's basically weaseling out. I don't want to use the word weaseling. He's ingeniously preserving the transitive nature of the verb lachayot without having to specify the implicit direct object by changing the word lachayot from keep alive or preserve life in itself to making it as if the verb lachayot means preserve and the direct object means life. It's actually a very brilliant translation, but basically there's no it there or anything like that. He's basically saying, translating lachayot as preserve life. And then he goes on, for you to be a great surviving group. Okay, lechem, or preserve life. And then he translates this as lechem, for you to be a great surviving group. So he translates lechem lefleta, Gdola. Okay, and Fleta is, he translates as surviving group. Gdola is great, so great surviving group. Okay, and he doesn't have any comment on it, but I think his translation kind of implies the same problem that Bruce was raising, but his solution is much closer to, in all honesty, my solution or my understanding than it is to the translation of Samson Raphael Hirsch. So that's that. Okay. So let me just text Bruce and see what's going on. If he wants to come back in. Okay. Okay, so then let's go on. Okay, so verse 8, Ve'ata lo atem shalachtem oti hena, and now this is the verse that Bruce was saying is essentially the climax of the entire story. It's near the climax, but I disagree that it's actually the climax. It's an explanation of what's going on. It's not an event in and of itself. But and now it is not you who sent me here, but God. Yasimenu la'av leFaro, and he made me like a father to Pharaoh, uladon l'chol beito, and as a as a master over his house, u'moshel b'chol eretz Mitzrayim, and a ruler over all the land of Egypt. Okay, and then Joseph sends for his father.
I think there's also something significant in that last verse about it may be that when he started seeing the fulfillment of his dreams with his brothers coming to Egypt, he is seeing here also his mind might have changed somewhat about the disaster that had happened in his life. And he started thinking, whoa, maybe this was all about God sending me here to open a way for the world, open a way for my brothers and for the family. And it wasn't that they and their evil intents actually had control of the situation.
I think it's a good point. I think it's something that it didn't occur at that moment, although it might have, maybe when he revealed himself, that, opened up a floodgate of other realizations. But remember, he'd already met his brothers came down already, who knows how long before, maybe a year before, or, whenever the case was. So he's maybe had a year to think about this, he's maybe had a year to think about this, or however long it took for the brothers to go back up to Egypt, come down again, try to leave and get called back again because the chalice was in Binyamin's sack, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I mean, basically, around this time, he is definitely realizing there's a plan behind all of this, right? He hadn't seen the whole
I agree. It was over a period of time that this mental process, or the mental block that he had, is starting to get illuminated.
Yeah, it's starting to clear. It's like a blockage in a sink. There you go. It's starting to clear. And that last speech by Yehuda is really, that was like really sticking the plunger in there deep and clearing out that last gunk from the pipe. Yeah,
for sure. Okay.
Yeah. All righty. So so let's see. So and then we have the whole story. I don't think I'm going to read through it word for word again because I did it this morning. But are there any other specific points that you want to speak about, Ariella or Ben?
Ben had to rest. He's got his back going out. His back is out. So anyway, he's gonna. I'll update him on everything.
Sure. Okay. So I guess I'll read through quickly, but yeah.
Yeah, let's just do it quick.
Yeah.
My battery's about gone anyway.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go on for another hour and a half. So when your battery goes out, it goes out. But
All right, great.
yeah. What time is it there, by the way?
It's 11 o'clock, 11:05 a.m.
5. So it's the same time as New York there.
New York, yeah, it's New York time.
It's New York time. Interesting. Okay. All right. והכל נשמע בית פרעה לאמור, באו אחי יוסף ואיתיו בעיני פרעה ובעיני עבדיו. So Pharaoh was happy about this. ויאמר פרעה אל יוסף, אמור אל אחיך זאת עשו תענו את ביערכם. And I don't know this word so well, so I want to look it up for myself. ביערכם. Beasts, cattle, collective, ba'ir, late Hebrew, Aramaic, Arabic. Okay. I mean, it occurs a number of times. Ba'ir. I don't know. See Hebrew, ba'ar. Okay. Consume, burning, burn, transitive burn, active, kindle, burn, figurative, consume. Still not getting it, but okay, be brutish. Ish ba'ar. Okay, I got it. Bi'er v'sadeh. Just 1 second here, I'm sorry. Right. Ish ba'ar lo yavin. Okay, it's related to that. Okay, so be'irchem means like your wild animals, I guess. Ba'ar, stupid, dull-hearted. Sinim, Ezekiel 94. Let me just check this for 1 second. Binu ba'arim, ba'am. Okay. Alrighty. I think I see. Just 1 more second. Sorry about that. Ba'arim. Oh, that brings me right back here. It's 1. And I'll explain what I'm looking at in just 1 second. Let me just go to here. Numbers, Psalms. Job, Psalms. Tivar-ish. Psalm. Tivar. Binu Barim, Tivar. Sonita Chod Ba'ar. 1 second. Shpat Baruach Ba'ar. No Ba'ara Ke'ish Sha'im Ba'ara Chla. Bo'er Ba'ara. Okay, I can't find it right now. Ba'ar. No, and I already passed. Psalms. Wait 1 second. Let me do it. Evil people. Why? Like yes. No, Psalms. No, okay, I can't find it. All right, I just was looking up this word, which I'm not really so familiar with, be'irchem, and there's another word, ba'ar, which means like a brutish person, and so be'irchem in this case means wild animals. It's not a common word in modern Hebrew. It does occur a bunch of times in Tanakh, but I just wanted some more clarity for myself on it. At any rate, so load up your wild animals and go back to the land of Canaan. Canaan, קחו את אביכם ואת ביתכם ובואו אליי ותנה אליכם את טוב הארץ מצרים יאכלו את חרב הארץ. So Yosef is basically telling the brothers, go back and get dad and come back down. Okay. מארץ מצרים עגלות את אבכם מן השם ודע עליכם אל תחוס al klechem ki tuv. I'm going to skip this a little bit. So he gives them a whole bunch of wagons filled with the produce, or the produce, you could say, of Egypt. Shlach et achav v'yelchu v'yomer elehem al tirgazu b'derech. So Yosef in verse 24, he sends away his brothers, Yerchu, and they went, Yomer Elehem, and Yosef said to them, so Yosef is now giving them commands. I mean, he turned out to be the boss after all. Al tirgazu baderech. And tirgazu, quarrel. I don't think it's a good translation. Oops. I think tirgazu is going to be closer to like zigzag. I'm just curious again what some of the translations are here. Yeah, be agitated, quiver, quake, be excited, perturbed. And let's just see some of the English translations here. So that's 45. Oh, let's see how Robert Alter translates it. We don't need to go through all the other translations. I would translate this as V'yelchu amar elem al tirgazu baderech. Don't waste your time, or don't zigzag back and forth on the way. Just go straight to your father. In other words, let's see. That's Genesis chapter 45, verse 24. And Robert Alter translates it as, and he set off his brothers, and they went, and he said to them, do not be perturbed on the journey. Do not be perturbed on the journey. Okay. I'm not sure that can mean a lot of different things. Do not be perturbed. Don't worry on the journey. Don't get upset on the journey. Okay. Alrighty. That's for another time. Okay, so finally they get up to their father. And, I should unmute. I unmuted you, Ariella, if you want to say anything.
Yeah, I'm using this translation. I don't even know whose it is. It's
yeah.
But it says don't be recriminating each
Right.
other. I don't know. Yeah, it's high in it's a liberal, but it's actually better than Rashi usually.
Right. Yeah. Well, in modern Hebrew, litragez means to get angry. Tirgazu means, I thought it was related to like shake, but they translated it here as quarrel. So again, the various, to be agitated, quiver, quake, be excited, perturbed. BDB says be agitated, same thing basically. There's a place where, let me find it. It's right here, as a matter of fact. And this is the Witch of Endor, the of Endor, the famous story where after Samuel dies, Shaul goes to him and asks for advice, which is never a good idea.
Right, of course, as we know.
Because so the advice that Shmuel, it says to Shaul, it says basically, why did you wake me up? And now my message to you is this: tomorrow you're going to be here with me, right? Not a good idea. Sometimes better not to ask the question. The same with if you remember last week's parsha with the you had the baker and the cupbearer and the baker of Pharaoh. So it says that the baker heard Joseph's interpretation of the cupbearer's dream, and so he asks. So therefore, he asks Joseph for an interpretation of his dream, and then Joseph says, in 3 days your head will be lifted up off your shoulders, meaning you'll be hanged. What says explicitly you'll be hanged, and that's exactly what happens. Sometimes it's better not to ask the question. In Israel, Did you guys ever hear the concept of a kit bag question?
A kit's bag?
Sheila
No.
kit bag? Yeah,
Nope.
it's an army thing. I was not in the Israeli army. I didn't come to Israel until I was 25. But it's a common phrase in Israel, which is they call it shelat kit bag. So a kit bag is like a heavy sack that the soldiers have to carry on their back. And so the story goes, or the parable goes, that the sergeant says to the unit, says, now we're going to do a 25-kilometer hike up and down the hills in the middle of the day. Okay. And one soldier says, one soldier raises his hand and says, should we bring our kit bags? Should we bring our heavy sacks with us? And the sergeant says, okay, yeah, now that you asked, sure, why not?
Yeah,
words, if you
I
hadn't
can
asked
see
the
that.
question.
Right.
So
Don't mention it.
yeah. Sometimes it's best not to ask the question and keep your mouth shut.
That's right. Keep your mouth shut.
Bag, you know.
Very good. Very good. Good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So Shmuel is Shaul should not have gone, but and asked Shaul anything. But here we have that same verb, hirgaztani. Okay. So so why have you disturbed me? Why have you shaken me? Why have you shaken me up by bringing me? Right. So we'll just do an English translation for a second. So this is what Shmuel says back to Shaul. And Samuel said to Shaul, why have you disquieted me to bring me up? And Shaul answered, etc., etc. So basically Shmuel says, why are you shaking me or bothering me? I think also, if I'm not, yeah, of course, it is used explicitly for like an earthquake. Let's just find that. It's going to be much later. 1 second here. Okay, that's in Samuel. So earthquake is usually called Ra'ash, but who shakes the earth? Looking for one specific thing. Yeah, so here's an example. Musteharim yirgazu. The foundations of the earth were trembling, yirgazu. So that's really what that's what lirgoz, ragaz, in its most basic form means to tremble or shake or quake. Okay? Yitgashu, and we're shaking. Okay, so that's really what it means, is to shake or quake. That's what lirgoz means. And if we unravel and go back here, so Yosef says to them, Al tirgazu badarech. Don't literally shake or quake, but by extension, who knows what that means? I guess we'd have to do more of a study on it. I always interpret it as don't zigzag, don't waste your time. Like, just go straight to your father. Rob Alter interprets it or translates it as don't be perturbed on the way.
Okay. It could be don't get distracted by all these.
Yeah.
Anything that can happen, any earthquake or any other thing, just go straight. Don't stay on the path.
That's exactly the way I understand it. Not from earthquakes, but in general. In other words, go straight to your father. Don't dilly dally or waste your time or get distracted. I think get distracted is the way I would translate it.
Yeah,
exactly
I think so. That makes sense after the things you've looked at here. Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly. In fact, I'm going to write a note to myself because I am trying to write a commentary on the Torah.
Oh, great!
I tried beginning, but while waiting, I noticed there was a message ended. No, I don't think so. I think he's doing the last link. Hold on a second. Let me just write Bruce followed the wrong link. Let me just send Bruce the link. Copy. I think he went to the morning study by mistake. This is the correct link. And let me just make a note for myself regarding this. So, and this is Genesis 45:24, Genesis 45:24 equals don't get distracted. I think that's the perfect translation. I think that is exactly right, Ariel. So thank you. That is the perfect translation. Don't get distracted.
No, it really helps to it really helps to discover like this. It's great. Yeah. I appreciate that, because I was wondering, why would he tell them not to fight? I mean, they've been living all these years.
It doesn't make sense,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't make sense
No.
in the, and Robert Alter also realizes that it doesn't make sense to say don't fight. So he translates it as don't be perturbed, which means more, which makes more sense. In other words, don't worry. But I don't think that really makes sense either.
No.
Yeah.
It's more don't get distracted. Don't let these little petty things, whatever happens, shake you out of the path. Whatever.
Exactly. Oh, don't waste time. Just go straight up to dad and bring it back down. You know, don't.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We had no time.
That's his whole goal. You can tell from the context. The whole goal is to get dad back here.
Exactly. Okay, verse 25. V'alu mitzrayim, and they went up from Egypt. Yavo eretz Canaan el Yaakov avihem. So that now they went back to Yaakov, who at this point was in Hebron. Yes, he was in Hebron, right? Because he'd come back from Lavan and made his way through a whole bunch of places, and eventually ended up in Hebron. So here I call this the second, or this is actually the I call this the second climax. You know, if we reach the peak of the hill with verse 3, Ani Yosef Od Avi Chai, I'm Yosef, is my father still alive, then now we're descending down off the hill of the climax of the story. But as I mentioned in this morning's study, when you go down off a mountaintop, it doesn't just go straight down. It's down a little bit up, down a little bit up, down a little bit up. So here's what I would call a secondary climax, and that's when the brothers come back and they tell their father that Yosef is still alive. And then the third climax would be when Yosef and Yaakov actually meet in person. But here it says, and I'll translate this to the English. Vayigidu lo lemor od Yosef chai. So they came back to their father and they said, od Yosef chai, Yosef is still alive. Now it's very interesting because they're telling the father that Yosef is still alive. In the first climax in verse 3, Yosef is asking, is my father still alive? Right? So there's this theme of they can't believe, you know, they're coming to terms or realizing that Yosef is realizing his father's still alive, and the fathers and Yaakov is realizing that Yosef is still alive. There's a lot of this this theme about, is the other person still alive? And not only is he alive, but he's the ruler over all of Egypt, all of the land of Egypt. And he basically, his heart stopped. I don't think it means literally. Basically, his heart skipped a beat because he didn't believe them. Now, what's interesting here, I think what's brilliant about this verse is if he had just said Yosef is still alive, they probably would have. He may have been shocked, but he probably would have believed them. But he doesn't just say Yosef is still alive. He said Yosef is still alive, and he's the ruler over all of Egypt. All right. I mean, that sounds like a lie, right? I mean, come on. He's alive and he's the ruler of all. Come on. What kind of BS what is this nonsense you're telling me, right? So it's funny because by going on to tell the whole truth, he actually to his father, who doesn't know anything about what's been going on, makes it sound less true that here's Bruce.
But you also mentioned about Joseph had a mental block. Maybe Jacob had a mental block that had to go away as well.
I think so. I think for sure. But the difference is that I think that if Jacob had found out that Joseph was still alive, he immediately would have gone and found him. And Joseph just couldn't. The mental block was really on the part of Joseph. But I think so too. Joseph,
There's another element here.
Yeah, Bruce.
The same people, his sons, the same sons that are telling him that Joseph is alive, told him that Joseph was dead
Yeah, that's a good point.
20 years before. It's the same people.
Right. That's right. Yeah, that's an excellent point, as a matter of fact. Right. Exactly. So that's already Yaakov can't believe it, right? Yeah, that's right. They came back and they said Yosef, they brought the coat with the blood on it and said, and then it was actually Yaakov who came to the conclusion, saying Yosef Tarov Torah. Yosef has certainly been ripped apart as prey. Yeah, but Bruce, I don't know if you heard it before, but it's almost comical, right? That I mean, the Torah definitely has, God definitely has a sense of humor, and it says, I don't know if you heard what we were just saying a second ago, but not only do the brothers come back and say Yosef is alive, which is already hard enough to believe after having believed for over 20 years that his son is dead, but then he says, and he's the ruler over Egypt, right? So they said for sure for sure, by saying that, which is the absolute truth. For sure, that added to the father's disbelief of what they were saying at all, right? You know, it's just, it would be like, telling such a ridiculous story that there's no way that it could be true, right? So I just thought that was a little bit of irony.
Jesse Smollett.
Right, exactly. Exactly, something along those lines. So, anywho, alrighty. So, and the other thing I was pointing out is I think this is also what I would call a secondary climax of the Genesis story. Joseph said, when Joseph said, "I am Joseph, is my father still alive?" And now the secondary climax is the brothers go back and tell Yaakov that Joseph is still alive. And there's this theme of alive, right? Joseph asks, "Is my father still alive?" And now the father says, now they're telling the father, and now the father can't believe that Joseph is still alive, right? So this whole theme kind of is the other person alive? All right, verse 27, and now they spoke all the words of Yosef. So now they're explaining it, right? They're giving it in detail enough that it doesn't seem like a spurious, a fake story anymore. And now he needed further proof. Then what was the further proof? He saw all the wagons, right? So obviously, there's proof before his eyes. He's seeing these wagons, Asher Shalach Yosef, which Yosef had sent, right? So where are they going to get all these wagons? Unless this story is now starting to come together to make sense a little bit more. And literally, Yaakov's spirit came to life or came alive, right? And again, this is the second time where we had the word nefesh being used as soul or spirit, where it said nefesh, nafsho kshura benafsho, when it's speaking about Benjamin and Yaakov. When Yehuda gives a speech before Yosef, he says his soul or his spirit is tied up or is entangled with his spirit, meaning Yaakov's spirit is entangled with is tied up with his son Benjamin's spirit. And here again, we have this ruach being used to represent the idea of soul or spirit or whatever the case may be. Hold on, Volt is Love. You want to go out? You don't want to let him out? I'm gonna let him out for a while because he's starting to drive me crazy. Okay. I'm gonna let him out. There we go. All right. So yeah. So Yaakov came alive, right? For the first time in over 20 years, his soul was revived. His soul came alive. His spirit came alive. Verse 28, Yomer Yisrael Rav Od Yosef b'ni Hai Ilcha be'arenu b'terem amut. And Israel said, and I'm not sure exactly what this Rav is doing here. Rav Od Yosef b'ni Hai is great. I don't know how I would translate that. Let's go to Robert Alter, see how he deals with that. It's kind of doesn't make sense.
Well, I have another question. I have two questions. Two questions.
Yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
One is Benjamin is also a son of Rachel,
right?
Who gives him 5 grandchildren, and it's somehow not satisfactory. It's not enough.
It's not enough. His firstborn, Joseph's. I always look at it this way, okay? Yaakov's true firstborn is Yosef, and I'll explain. And that plays itself out in many, many, many different ways. Perhaps one of the clearest ways that it plays itself out is that his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, are made individual tribes, because the firstborn in the Torah gets a double portion. So Yosef is made into a double portion, okay? Now, you could say that's unfair. Reuven was really the firstborn because he was the first child that Leah had, but Yosef is the one who's treated by the firstborn, and it kind of makes sense because Yosef really didn't, because Yaakov never wanted to marry Leah. He never wanted to have children with Leah, with Zilpah or Bilhah. They were all kind of forced on him by one circumstance or another, but his real only wife would have been Rachel, and the firstborn of Rachel is Yosef. So Yosef is his real firstborn in a certain sense, you know. Yeah. I have to charge my battery for a second, so I have to just go get the charger for one split second. So I'll be right back. I don't think there's any reason to put on music or anything like that. Bruce, I'll let you and Ariella just take it over for me. I'll be right back. I'm just gonna get my charger. I'll be back in less than a minute or two.
Okay, Ariella, where did you get up to?
We were in here at the end of chapter 45, where he says, "My son Joseph is alive. I must go and see him before I die." That's right where we were.
Chapter 45. Okay.
Last verse, verse 28.
Okay. Do you want to read?
Vayomer Israel Rav Od Yosef Bani Chai Alech Elcha Ve'er Avnu Be'ar Renu Be'terem Amut.
Right. So he'll go and see Joseph before he dies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We were discussing the word Rav, why that word is in there, and what Rav actually means. Enough is what they've translated it in this verse. In this version, they put it as enough. But Rav often means many, or I don't know what it means in the Old Hebrew.
Well, Hirsch translates it, it is too much.
Okay, that's good. I like that one because, like Rab, Rabbah, whatever, it's many, many, too much, whatever.
Right. Okay. You want to continue, or should I?
I'm thinking also on that verse. He's saying before I die, but he lives another 17 years. When he goes to Egypt, he lives a long. He dies at 137, I believe. So he lives a long time in Egypt, but obviously he doesn't know when he's going to die.
Right.
Yeah. So you go ahead with the next verse.
Okay. Vayisa Yisrael v'chol asher lo vayavo be'erah Be'er Sheva. Right. I noticed that. That's a very interesting.
Beersheba. Okay. Be'er Sheva.
Be'er Sheva. Vayis, which means in the direction of or toward Beersheba.
Right.
Vayizbach Zvachim leElohei Aviv Yitzchak. Which surprised that caught my eye. Usually he would say, the God of my fathers, Yitzchak and Abraham, or Abraham the Yitzchak. But here he leaves out Abraham. He just Yitzchak. Yitzchak.
His
'Cause-
father Isaac. Yeah.
right.
Yitzhak.
Of course, his father is Yitzchak, but the God of his father Yitzchak and his father Abraham, because he refers
Good point.
to. I don't know. I wrote a kind of a manuscript of my questions. I have a lot of questions like that. Why just Yitzchak there? Okay.
Good point. Good point. That's great. Yeah, because you usually see them mentioning all three of the patriarchs later on.
Yeah. Vayomer Elohim liYisrael b'marot halayla. Vayomer Yaakov Vayomer Hineni.
Hineni.
Whenever it says Hineni, it's usually translated "Here I am," because that's literally what it means. But what God doesn't know, He's talking to him. He knows where he is. But
Right.
it means I'm ready.
I'm here. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I'm ready, willing, and able. Okay.
There we go. Yeah.
Vayomer Anochi Ha'el Elohei Avicha
Mm-hmm.
Al Tira
Not of your father. Of your father.
Ki Lagoy Gadol Asimcha Sham. Okay, you
there you will have a great nation, a great goy.
Right. Do you have an English translation handy?
Yeah, I have both. I've got the Etz Chaim version right here. I mean, when we came, we had to leave a lot of things behind, but I've got the Chumash of the Etz Chaim, which is a fairly. I mean, it's better than the Art Scroll. I don't like the Rashi, but it does have it here.
Okay, so I don't have to translate each verse.
No. And I mean, I'm trying to follow you in both of them.
Okay,
there we go.
good.
Oh, Melech's back.
Oh. Yeah.
You back, Melech?
I'm just listening.
Okay.
I'm back.
Okay.
Just listening. Yeah.
We got down to and I'm the God of your fathers, and he goes Hineni, and
we're up to
verse 2. Verse 2. Yeah.
Verse 4. Now we're on verse 4.
All right.
Anochi ered imcha Mitzrayma va'anochi alecha gam alo vayosef yatziach yado al einecha. I'll go down with God is talking to him. I'll go down with you. So God can be in other places. God is not local just to Israel.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to point out something here, which is if you look at Yaakov's journey, okay, so he left when he was after he had the whole incident with Esav, when he was a young man, he left his father's home, Yitzchak's home in Hebron, and went out to Haran, right, to be with Lavan. And after that, his entire journey is basically, if you look at all the places, for whatever it's worth, he's going straight, basically all these places he stops after that are, you can almost make a line from northeast to southwest, because he's in Haran. Then the next place is Pinuel, where he fights with the angel. And then after that, it's Shechem. So he's moving down into the land of Israel. After Shechem, he goes to Beth El. From Beth El, then he goes back to Hebron, and then Yitzhak dies. And now he's going from Hebron to Beersheba, and then he's going to go from Beersheba to Goshen, right? So his entire life, after he leaves his father's house, is almost a straight line from northeast down to southwest, ending up in Egypt. Kind of a interesting. I don't know if you call it coincidence, but an interesting observation, I would say. And the other thing I want to say is that Beersheba has significance. Now, when I was giving the study this morning, in my mind I confused Beersheba with Beth El for some reason. I started giving a whole drash on how he's now at Beth El, where he was when he had his dream. And then I realized about 10 minutes into it, no, this is not Bethel. This is Beersheba. So I had to scrap that. But now as I'm rethinking it, Beersheba was an important point in both his father's and his grandfather's life, right? Because Beersheba was where both his father and his grandfather had the incidents with the well with Avi Melech and his servants, right? And it was named Beersheba, I think, the first time because 7 wells were dug, and the second, or maybe the first time, because a vow was taken or swear was taken over a particular well between Avi Melech and Avraham, and the second time 7 wells were dug. So Beersheba, it's a double meaning. Sheva can mean 7, and it also can mean an oath. But the point I'm trying to make is that Beersheba has significance in the history of the family so far. It was a significant place for both Abraham and Yaakov. And when he says he goes to Beersheba, and then it says, where is it? Wait, where was it? It's in verse 1. It says he sacrificed offerings to the God of his father Yitzhak. Okay, maybe this is in a sense a reference to when Yitzhak was in Beersheba and had all these incidents with the well, right? His father's God, right? Because it's a significant place for the family, Beersheba. Right? You get it? There are these specific significant places in the family that recur again and again. Bethel being one of them for Yaakov, Beersheba being one because of what happened with Avraham and Yitzhak. So in other words, he's not just going to some other random place in the middle of nowhere. He's going back to Beersheba, which is already well known in the family's history. Is I guess the point I'm trying to make.
There you go.
It's also basically his last stop before he leaves Israel for the second time, right? When he was a young man, he had to leave Israel and head northeast up to Haran, and he stopped at Bethel, and that's where he had the dream, and that's where he set up basically a pillar and made an oath to God. And now he's back at Hebron. That's like his base. That's where his father's family is, and that's his base. But now he's basically heading from Hebron to Beersheba. It's going to be about due south. I'm not sure if it's west or east. I'd have to look at a map again, but it's basically heading south. He's on his way out of Canaan of Israel for the second time and last time in his life. And he stops again at one more place and sacrifices and speaks to God again. It's almost like Beersheba and Bethel are like, how could we say, kind of like opposites of each other, or complements of each other, right? Yaakov stops Bethel on his way up north, and he stops at Beersheba on his way down south, right before he leaves the land. And each time he gets a prophecy, and it's a dream, in fact, right? When he goes to Bethel, he has the dream at night regarding the ladder with the angels going up and down. And now it says also that God came to him in a dream and basically says, well, Yomer Anochi Al Tira Merda Mitzrayim, don't fear. So I'll turn you into a large or a great nation there. And I will also bring you up one day, and Yosef will place his hands on your eyes, meaning Yosef will be the one to close your eyes when you die, right?
Isn't it, Melech, isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting that in every one of these 3 times, or when Yaakov takes off, he's already started his journey, and then he gets this confirmation from God. He's already started out again. I mean, he did that at the beginning. He ran from Esau, and then he ran from Laban, and right after that, every single time he's confirmed that he's on the right journey.
Yeah,
isn't that interesting?
Excellent point. Right, the same thing happened when he leaves Haran, or after he has the whole incident with Lavan in Galed, in Gilad, where they make the oath, and then he ends up in Pinuel, and that's where he wrestles with the angel, and God says to him, God comes to him and basically says, yeah, go back to your father's house. Yeah, it's an excellent point. In fact, let's do something even a little bit more. Let's compare this to the verse where he comes to Beth El. And let me just see here. That is going to be, I've got to go here. And that's going to be in about Genesis 25:35 he's already back. Let's say about Genesis 28, if I'm not mistaken. A little bit after that. Let's try 31. No, that's way too far. No, it was 28. Yeah, here it is, Beth El. I'll just read in the English. So Jacob left Beersheba. So he's in Beersheba at the time, not in Hebron. For some reason, I thought he was in Hebron. Okay, so there's the Beersheba again. Okay. So Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. When he reached a certain place, he stopped for the night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones there, he put it under his head and lay down to sleep. He had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth with its top reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. There above stood Yehovah, and he said, I am the Lord, your descendants, the land on which you are lying. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and you'll spread out to the west, your offspring. I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I've done what I promised you. So let's compare that to, just go to the English just to make it go a little bit quicker. Let's compare that to what God tells Yaakov here in Beersheba. Jacob, Jacob, I am the God of your father, he said. Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for I will make you into a great nation there. I will go down to Egypt with you, and I will surely bring you back again, and Joseph's own hand will close your eyes. Once again, in Bethel, he says, I am the Lord, the God of your father, Abraham, and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south. All peoples on the earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I've done what I promised you. So there's a comment a little bit more. If you guys want to, if it seems worthwhile, I think it'd be interesting just to compare the two. So let's see here. So the first thing he says, all right, let's even do this. I'm gonna go crazy here, and I'm gonna make a spreadsheet, and we'll call this name Bethel and Beersheba. So let's look at the different elements here. You guys can see the screen, right? Oh, geez, you can't even see the screen. Oh, it's my fault. There we go. If I forget to, if that happens again, where I just have our faces on there and not the contents of the screen, please let me know, because it's not my intention. My intention is that you should be able to see the screen. So, okay, so here we have Bethel, and here we have Beersheba. I can spell. And let's look at the different elements. Bethel, that's in Genesis 28. Let me move back over here. And so, so the first thing he says, I am the Lord, the God of your father, Abraham, and the God of Isaac. Okay, so let's put that in. So that's Bethel. I am God of your fathers. I'll put here. That's the first element of the vision. Maybe I should make this a little bit bigger. That's better. And next, I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Okay? I will give you, we'll just say, the land of Canaan. Next. Genesis 28 next. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and you'll spread out to the east and to the west and the north and to the south. So that's your descendants will be like dust of earth. Okay. Let's just add here Bethel. This is Genesis 28. And Beersheba. This is going to be Genesis 46. Okay. Next, in Bethel, all the peoples of the earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. All the peoples of the earth blessed through you. Okay. Next, land. Watch separate one. I will bring you back to the land of. And then finally, I will not leave you until I've done what I promised you. Okay? I will not leave you until promise fulfilled. Okay, so those are the various components of what God speaks to Yaakov at Bethel when he's on his way to Lavan. And then Jacob makes a vow. Okay, now let's go to Genesis 46. And let's break down this vision that he has in a dream. And by the way, we should add another thing here. Both were in a dream. I'm going to insert one row above. God appears in dream. So that's the first element here. That's the same. It's in a dream at night, not a vision, but a dream at night specifically. And then first thing he says is, I am the God of your father. Okay. He says father. Yitzhak, he doesn't say his fathers, but okay. So it's basically the same thing. Okay. I am the God of your father. Next. Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, because I will make you into a great nation there. Okay. So that's kind of equivalent to, where is it? This. So I'll put this here. Don't be afraid to go to Egypt. I will make you a great nation there. We'll make you into a great nation there. Very similar to what he said in Bethel. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth. Okay. I will go down to Egypt with you, and I will bring you back again. So that's kind of similar to this. I will go down to Egypt with you, and I will bring you back again. I will bring you back to the land of Canaan. Okay? So, and Joseph's hand will close your eyes. and will where? Well, let's hope not. Okay, we'll just monitor it and see what happens. Okay, Joseph's hand will close your eyes. Okay, so there are a lot of. Okay, so let's see. Let's mark all the elements that are the same in green, and those that are different. Oops. In green, and those that are different in red. So these two are the same. Don't be afraid to go to Egypt. I will give you the land of Canaan. Can we say those are the same? No, I don't think so. We'll just leave it black. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth. I will make you into a great nation there. That's basically the same. This has no analogy. I will watch over with you. I will go down to Egypt with you. I would say I'll call that the same, more or less. I will bring you back to the land of Canaan. I will bring you back to the land of Canaan. I will not leave you until promise fulfilled. Joseph's hand will close your eyes. So those are different. But we see here that it's very it's a very similar vow, right? Each time it consists of the same things or many of the same elements. Okay, I'm the God of your father. I will make you into a great nation. I will protect you, or I'll be with you, or I'll watch over you, and I will bring you back to the land of Canaan. It's very similar to the vow that was made, or that what God said to Joseph at Beersheba. So, Bruce, any comment? Did I mute you? Oh God, I'm sorry. Now you should be unmuted. Oh, you'd have to unmute your own mic. So, Bruce, anything to say?
No, not right away. You know what? I'll open my notes and see if last year I had something to say about these verses.
All right. You should write I'm telling you, you should write a book.
I did. I did.
Oh, of Torah questions.
Yeah.
No, I mean you should publish it. No, I know you had notes, but I didn't know you've actually turned it into a book.
Yeah, well, kind of. It's a draft. Let's call it a draft.
Talking about books, what's going on with your...
Yes. Okay. You know what? I can tell you what, like a new revelation, and it has to do with going down to Egypt.
Yep.
I'm not going to open my notes now. Do you know the population of Egypt?
Now?
Yeah.
Or back home? I'm going to guess.
Take a guess.
I'm going to guess something like somewhere between 50 and 75 million. I'll go with 75 million.
Are you sitting down?
Yeah.
104 million.
Okay. I'm actually not shocked. But yeah, I know there are a couple of huge cities in Egypt, such as Cairo, Alexandria, etc. And Egypt has a lot of territory stretching all the way down.
The population of the Arab world.
Mm-hmm.
The population of the Arab world.
You want me to guess?
Take a guess. I know what it is.
Do you mean the Muslim world or just the Arab world specifically?
No, just Arab-speaking world.
The Arabic-speaking world. So we're talking then about Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia.
Right. Saudi Arabia, Bahrain.
Aden, all the Gulf states. Right. Yemen, Jordan, Syria.
Yeah, okay.
Iraq.
Okay.
That's about it, right?
Take a guess.
I'll guess about another. I'm going to go with about another 100 million.
So altogether?
Let's say 200 million.
Right, 243 million
okay.
Arab speakers.
Right.
That's more than the population of America. America is
Actually, it's not.
330.
Yeah, but didn't you just say 240?
Oh, is that what I said? No, it's
Yeah.
423.
Oh, 423. Okay. All right. I mean, it doesn't totally surprise me because the Islamic conquests, brought
Right, that's not
the
the
Arabic
point.
language to many lands.
That's not, none of that's the point. Who would be
Okay.
interested in my disclosures about the Yom Kippur? Oh, excuse me, not the Yom Kippur War,
Huh.
the October War.
So you're going to publish the book in Arabic.
Bingo.
Okay. All right.
I didn't think of it. I didn't think of it before. My
Mhm.
son, who's in California, said, you know
Right.
what? His partner's father works for Al Jazeera. He's British,
Uh-huh.
but he works for Al
Okay.
Jazeera.
Mhm.
And he says, you have to talk to him about your disclosures. I think it might be interesting for Al Jazeera. And I'm thinking,
Okay.
I need to get it translated into Arabic, right? So I started
Well-
approaching different translating firms, one that I even worked for. And
Right.
they want like over 30,000 shekels to translate it into Arabic.
Right. I'm surprised
So-
that's all. I would think even more. Yeah.
Wow, that's very expensive. That's
It sure
very
is.
expensive. So I found an Arab that works.
Uh-huh. Not too hard to
And
find them in where you live.
right. So
Uh-huh.
through the internet, I
Right.
started inquiring of my Arab friends, and then I went to the internet
Right.
and I found someone at the University of Hebron,
Right.
and he'll translate it for, I think he said, what did he say?
Uh-huh.
He said, I think 19,000.
Okay.
And then I'm thinking,
Did
well,
he
I'm
say it
reading
how-
about
how-
Joseph.
did he say it like
I'm reading
this?
about, I'm
Did he
reading
say,
about
"My
Joseph
friends,
going
my
out to
friends"?
Egypt.
Not 30,000. I translate your book. 19,000 shekel, best translation ever. And included, you get free hummus every Friday for 1 month.
I contacted some translators
Yeah.
in Egypt.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
A fraction of the
Right.
cost, like 9,000,
Right.
like unbelievable difference.
Sure.
So now I'm looking to find a publisher in an Arab country. And then I'm thinking, wow, if I can get the book published in Arabic in Egypt for a fraction
Right.
of the cost here or in America,
Yeah.
why don't I ask them to publish the English version as well?
Because
So
you need a
I'm looking
distribution
into all
network.
this. I'm very excited. I think there's a bigger market in the Arab world than in Israel. There's like, what,
Mhm.
6-7 million Jews in Israel today?
Mhm.
The total
But why
population
would
of
the
Israel is
Arabs-
9 million.
Why would the Arabs care that the CIA had a room that was off limits to Jews, and that they didn't tell? I just don't see. I mean, to be honest, my
You've been to
feeling-
Morocco. You've been to Morocco,
many times, yeah.
but have you ever been to
Mhm.
Cairo?
I've never been to Cairo.
Okay, I was
No,
in
no.
Cairo a day, and I walked
Mhm.
around,
Yeah.
and you see signs all over: October
Mhm.
Plaza, Gesher, October Bridge, October this, October that. There's a new neighborhood in outside of Cairo called October 23rd.
Okay.
They're obsessed. They
Mhm.
not obsessed in a positive way with their victory.
Right.
They believe that the Yom Kippur War was their
Victory.
victory. They're very
Okay.
interested in the October War. It may pop their
Hmm.
bubble a little bit to know that.
Mhm.
I think it would be an eye opener for them to know why
Mhm.
Israel was fooled, how
Mhm.
Israel was fooled.
Uh-huh.
It might pop their bubble a little.
I hope they don't put a fatwa out on you.
Don't put a what out on me? A
Fatwa?
fatwa.
Yeah.
Why would they put a fatwa on me?
I don't know. That's what they do. The Arabs, they put out fatwas. I mean,
No, I think it would be
Muslims
very
put out fatwas.
interesting.
What do you want from my life?
If I were an Arab, particularly an
Yeah.
Egyptian or a Syrian, I would be
Right.
interested in this story. I think it would be
Right.
as interesting to them as it is to Israelis
Right. I hear you.
or to Americans.
I don't know.
And they
I
have
think
such
that it
a
would be.
view.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know Egyptian culture, so I couldn't tell you. I could see why it would interest them, but I think your first and foremost your market is the United States
We'll see.
and Israel.
We'll
Yeah.
see.
My opinion.
All this depends on how it's marketed. It all depends on how it's
Right.
marketed.
Of course. Right.
And I'm so
Right.
excited about this. I didn't realize. I knew the population of Egypt was around 90 million the last time I checked.
Mhm.
I didn't realize it was 104 million today. Compare
Yeah,
that to
it really is.
Israel.
It really is a shithole.
Israel is,
Uh-huh.
and I'm checking. Then I go to the internet and I'm checking the population
Right.
of Arab countries in the Middle East. And we
Yeah.
are so overwhelmed. We're nothing population-wise. We're nothing compared to
Right.
them.
Right. It's true.
And not
It's true.
only that, but I think you posted this. Oh, no, you didn't post it,
Yeah.
but I'll have to share it with you. A satellite image of Israel, of the Negev. And they're
Mhm.
showing there are, I think, something like 20 Bedouin villages that are illegal that they want to make legal. The new government
Yeah.
has a lot of
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah. Right.
And it's not 20. It's like 120 or 220 because there's all kinds of small khirbot that are not even villages, but they expand and expand and expand. And right here in my backyard, on the way to Bethlehem, there was a little road that I used to take from time to time. I traveled it back before Oslo.
Right.
And it was like a one-lane road that if a car comes in the opposite direction, you both have to stop and find a place where you can squeeze by one another and then continue on. It's an autostrada. It's like a 3-lane highway going to Bethlehem. And there's a whole world that has exploded since the last time I traveled there, because it's illegal for me to travel, in the PA territory.
Right.
So I haven't gone there in decades, but I went with an Arab building contractor that I work for. I do shmirah.
Right.
He went there to get supplies. And I said, I hesitate to go. He said, don't worry. And I said, okay, I trust you. Let's go. And then I'm going armed, okay, in the middle of the PA territory. Here I am, a Jew with a gun, a settler with a gun.
Right.
And you see this world, it's like, when did this happen? It used to be nothing there. And now it's
up out of nowhere.
Unbelievable. We are easily being overwhelmed.
Right. I hear you. So what's the
and
solution?
then add to that the Arab countries around. 104 million in Egypt.
Right. I hear you.
Saudi
I
Arabia,
hear you.
over 40 million in Saudi Arabia. I thought it was a desert. You know, in my mind, I'm thinking it's a vast desert. There's nobody there. 40 million people.
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. Well, God better be with us. Any rate, but your book is at least in English in the final stages, or?
Yeah, it's in the. You know what? I sent it on to Geffen Publishers in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Because they publish Hebrew and English.
Right.
So I sent it to them, and I've been in touch with their boss, the leader. From the beginning when I first started writing, and he sent it to his senior editor, a woman.
Right.
And she came back with a very, very critical critique of the manuscript. She says it definitely needs complete revision, a thorough re-editing, even though I had it professionally edited.
Right.
By a firm in America.
Well, that's her opinion. You can get another opinion.
Yes, well, the opinion of the professional editor who edited it said, you know, she actually made a couple points that he said touche. Right. She was correct. But he said most of it is what you say, opinion.
Right, sure.
And he also said that any book, even a bestseller.
She also has a financial interest to say that it needs to be, she obviously also has a financial interest to say that it needs to be completely re-edited.
Right, exactly.
Conscious or subconscious financial interest, yeah.
Exactly. My editor in Texas did not say that. Yeah. I said it, but he didn't say it. Right. To his credit.
Right. All right. Well, keep us updated, Bruce.
Right. So, you know, it could be years and years.
I hope you get it out before the next war.
Right. Right. Yeah, I don't want to sit on my hands, but I don't feel it's urgent to get it out.
Right. Right. I hear you. Okay. Well, whenever you're ready, then you're ready.
I'm very excited about the idea of getting it out in the Arab world.
Right.
Might be a bigger market. Might be a bigger market.
It might be, but will it have the? I mean, would it have the impact that you want it to have if it gets out in the Arab market? I mean, isn't the impact that you want to make really among Americans where it happened and among Jews who live in America and Israel? I mean, it's not only quantity, it's quality, right?
I don't know. I've been thinking about it. What do I want out of the book? I want basically Israel to be aware that they have to be responsible for their own intelligence.
Right.
That's basically it.
Right. But this was a long time ago. Don't you think they're a lot more aware of that now? Especially given the fact that the United States actions regarding Iran have not been exactly what Israel had hoped for. I mean, I've heard messages first from Netanyahu and now from Bennett that we can't rely on the United States. We have to make our own. We have to make our own decisions.
I hope so.
Right.
Of course, I hope so. But one thing I learned, I keep investigating things, and I approached a man who is a general, an Israeli general, and a professor of history. Maybe I mentioned this to you, Yaakov Hizdai.
Yeah.
And he was on the Agranat Commission. He was an investigator on the Agranat Commission. And he mentioned to me in passing that he mentioned several things. But one of the things that really caught my attention was he said that the Agronaut Commission did not investigate at all American intelligence influence on Israel's.
Mm.
He said they steered clear of it. They didn't touch that.
I can imagine why. I didn't want to, it's too touchy a subject, I guess.
So had they, then they would have heard from Eli Zahira that he got intelligence assessments, and they would have heard from Moshe Dayan that he independently got intelligence assessments from the Americans that the Arabs were not going to attack. They would have known that. They wouldn't have known that we really knew.
Right.
They wouldn't have known that because they didn't interview me or any of my buddies.
Right.
I wonder if the question even came up. Did the Americans really not know?
Right.
Because that's what the American intelligence people testified to Congress under oath.
Right. Right.
We didn't know. We didn't know.
All right. Let's get back to Torah.
You're breaking up terribly.
Because I want to. Yeah, it happens sometimes. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hello. It breaks up.
I hear you.
The internet here is intermittent at times, so there's absolutely nothing I can do about it. But it is what it is. So what I want to do, I'll end the study probably after this topic, but I want to talk about the people who went down to Egypt and counted up.
I noticed that in the tally, the tally is that with Jacob, there were 66 people.
Right.
Right. And then they said in total, there were 70 who went down to Egypt, which included Joseph. Okay. And included Joseph's two sons.
Right.
Okay. But they also included Osnat. She didn't go down to Egypt.
They didn't include Osnat, I don't think. I think they're including Yaakov himself.
Ah.
Yeah. Yeah. But there's a couple of interesting things. And I actually, again, if you look on the screen, I did I can make this a little bit larger. A couple of years ago, I did I tried to do a tally. And maybe we can just go over this tally and kind of spot check it and see if it makes sense. So I should actually insert one row above. So this is going to be name, generation.
You can see why Jews often become accountants.
Yeah.
It's in our blood.
I guess so.
And the numbers are
always out of money lenders.
Okay. Well, it's not like the New Testament where they have these numbers and they're very sloppy.
Right.
And they don't jive. But in the Tanakh, they always jive. They're always spot on.
Kind of. Well, let's see if that holds up. Let's see if they are actually spot on. So here's the name of the person, generation, and we'll just say Yaakov equals 0. Etc. And comments. And let's try to make some sense out of this. Okay. And I'm going to add one more thing. Tally, because we get a number of tallies on the way through. So we're in Genesis 46. Are you grinding pepper?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, I don't mind. It just sounded like you were grinding pepper or something like that.
No, I'm just doing
Oh.
pages of the book.
Okay. I thought you had a pepper grinder.
Sorry.
You're putting it on smoked fish that you have in your oven.
What's in my oven?
Remember, I came over your house one time and you had smoked fish.
I smoked in the oven. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So verse 46. Okay. Let's maybe start here. V'yisai Yisrael v'chol asher lo v'yavo Beersheva yizbach tzvachim le'Elohei. Okay. V'yomer Elohim Yisrael b'mar'ot halayla. Okay, we just read this. Let's say v'yakam Yaakov miBeersheva yis'u b'nei Yisrael et Yaakov avihem. So the children of Israel, they took Yaakov their father, right? So it's the children of Israel who are the actors here, and they're taking Yaakov their father. So it would imply that he's one of the in the count, right? It's not Yaakov taking his family down; it's the children of Israel, the sons of Israel, taking Yaakov down, basically. Et tapam and their babies or their children and their women, ba'agalot in the wagons. That Pharaoh had sent to carry. Okay, so the main people that the subject of this entire action of going down to Egypt is not actually, it's the children. They're the ones taking their father and everyone else down. It's reasonable. One of the pieces of evidence that it's reasonable that Yaakov should be included in the count. He's the object, not the subject of this action. Right?
Yeah, even Binyamin the Na'ar, I can't get over that. I can't get over that. Father of 5 boys, and he's a youth.
Well, as we pointed out before, I think that it has to be understood correctly because he's called actually Yeled Katan earlier when Jacob is when Yehuda is describing him to Joseph. So it doesn't make sense, right? If he's a Yeled Katan, he's not going to have 5 children. But we saw that before. I don't think you were on the study at the time, or maybe you were. But if we go back to Genesis 44, let's see here. So here, verse 30. Binyamin is called Na'ar. Again, Na'ar, right? Na'ar is youth. It could mean anything. It could mean, I don't know, up to around the age of 20, I would say. Again, Na'ar. But there was other places, if I can find here. V'nomer el Adoni yesh lanu av zaken v'yeled zikunim katan.
Yeah.
An elderly father. The Yeled Zikunim Katan and basically a Yeled Zikunim Katan, a small child of his old age, right? And his brother died, so here he's called Yeled Katan, literally, and many times he's referred to as Katan or Katon earlier. So obviously he wasn't the Katan, right? He had 5 children. So I understand that.
How did the rabbis explain that?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't even know exactly where to look. I mean, we could check Rashi. You know, the rabbis is a big bunch, but I guess we could check Rashi if you want on this verse and see what he says, and then we could check. Let's see what Robert Alter has to say. Someone who actually makes some sense, not Rashi. It makes no sense most of the time. So this is chapter 44. I'll give you my explanation first. I have 2 explanations, which I spoke about this morning. Number 1, 3 explanations actually, and I'll give you mine, and let's see what Robert Alter says. The first thing is that this is Yehuda speaking to Joseph, so he might have want to pull his heartstrings a little bit more. Joseph's heartstrings. Remember, he doesn't know it's Joseph yet, right? It's true that at this point, Yehuda is speaking completely from the heart, right? because he's been backed into a corner. But maybe he's trying to pull on Joseph's heartstrings, or this leader of Egypt's heartstrings, a bit more by using the word Yeled Katan, a small boy, like, that's one possible explanation. I would say another possible explanation is that it's referring to the fact that when he was born, or when he was, when he was born, or when he was a young boy, he was indeed a Yeled Katan, referring back to, that's the way he's thought of in the family, as like the baby of the family. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
So
the baby in my family, is taller and stronger than all his siblings.
Right.
And we still call him the little one.
Exactly. The baby of the family is always the baby of the family.
Right.
No matter how old they get, they could be 55 years old and they're still the baby.
Right.
So maybe it's referring to that, At any rate, he is explicitly called Yeled Katan, and we know this is in the same time frame where everyone comes down, and Benjamin is explicitly comes down with 5 children. So, pretty young then, but I don't think that would explain it might explain the word Na'ar, but it certainly doesn't explain the word Yeled Katan. So I guess that's the way he's thought of within the family, is the little baby of the family. That would be my explanation.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's see here. So this is 44. Let's just see what Robert Alter says. This is 44:20. Okay, so first of all, 44:20. He says, an aged father and a young child of his old age. The phrase suggests the intimate connection between father and child, aged and old age. What he's saying there. Can be okay, yeah, aged, okay. As well as Benjamin's vulnerability as the youngest. Hebrew for young also means little. His brothers being dead, and then he goes on to something else. Either Judah assumes that after more than 20 years of slavery in a foreign land, Joseph is likely to be dead, or he states Joseph's absence as death for the sake of the rhetorical simplicity. Okay, that's already going on to something else. What is remarkable is that now Judah can bring himself out of concern for his old father to accept the painful fact of paternal favoritism, and his father loves him, and that was the root of the brothers' hostility towards Joseph. That's an interesting point. Although here in verse 22 he says, so in verse 22 is, the boy cannot leave his father, the lad cannot leave his father, is the word translated here in Robert Alter. Although Benjamin is considerably beyond adolescence, lad, as in a number of other notable occurrences, designation that suggests tenderness and perhaps the vulnerability of the person so designated, and Judah also uses it here because Benjamin is the youngest. Joseph, it should be noted, had coldly referred to the purportedly guilty Benjamin as the man. Okay. All right, so I guess it's kind of that he's the baby of the family. He's the youngest, so he's called Yeled and Na'ar and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, similar explanation.
Yeah. Okay, so let's look at this. Judah pleads for Benjamin. Okay, and then we go to 46. Okay, so we're over here. Verse 6. So they took their livestock, their chattel, and their possessions, which they had acquired in the land of Canaan. And again, this is another instance that Yaakov is included in the count, right? Because it says Yaakov and all his seed with him. Okay, ubnei banav, his sons and his sons' sons, ito, ubenotav ubenot banav, and his daughters the daughters of his sons. So what does it mean? So this is already strange because there's only one daughter mentioned. In fact, in the entire list that we're gonna go through now, there are only 2 females mentioned at all. One is Dinah, And the other is where to if I can find it. Well, we'll get to it. The wife of Asher? No, the daughter of Asher, I think it is. Asher. Char. Okay, we'll get to it. But there are only 2 women mentioned in the entire list.
Well, the explanation is that the fathers were airplane pilots.
Oh. Yes, and I don't get it.
Did you know
There's
that?
a joke in there somewhere.
Airplane pilots have an inordinate amount of male offspring.
Is that?
There's no explanation for it, but it's a fact. So they must have been airplane
Sounds like
pilots.
one of those. Sounds like one of those statistical anomalies.
Yeah, inexplicable, but true.
Okay, interesting. Alrighty then.
There's your explanation. They were airplane pilots.
Makes sense to me. Any rate, but it does mention his daughters and the daughters of his sons. There are no daughters. There's one daughter mentioned, that's Dinah, and there's one daughter of a son that's mentioned, and that's we'll get to it. I forgot her name.
One out of dozens. It's strange. That's not strange.
What is it? Yeah, it is strange. Exactly, and they're only.
I mean, if none were mentioned, then the explanation would be they're only talking about the male offspring.
Correct. Or if only Dinah were mentioned, then we could say, okay, it's talking about the male offspring, but Dinah had a significant role in the story earlier, so she's mentioned explicitly by name. But there's one other mention. Let me find it right now. Serach. There it is, verse 17. Bnei Asher, the sons of Asher, Yimna, Uyishva, Uyishvi, Ubriah, V'Serach Achotam, and their sister Serach.
Right.
So, but there's nothing important about Serach. We never hear from her again, do we? I don't think. Numbers. She appears in Numbers 26:46. Let's see what's going on there. Numbers 26:46.
I think she had something to do with Moshel Mitzrayim.
I don't think so. Not that mentions in the Tanakh. Vishuv mishpachot hayishuvi v'shimron v'tzva. Ela mishpachot Yisachar lepikudei ma'arba. Wait. Bnei Yisachar lemishpachotam tola u'mishpachat tolai. Whatever. Leishuv mishpachat hayishuvi l'shimron mishpachat shimon ela mishpachot shishim ela. Wait a second.
Where's Serach? I don't even see it.
I don't see it either. 26:46. I'm sorry, I read the wrong tribe. It's Asher. Bnei Asher. Oh no. Shem bat Asher Sarach. Yeah, verse 46. Numbers 26:46. Again, it's mentioning this daughter, Sarach. It's the only daughter that's mentioned out of all of the children. It doesn't make any sense. Out of all the children and the grandchildren. Dinah is mentioned. And Sarach is mentioned. So the only thing I could say is maybe she had some kind of significance that we don't know about. There's one other place that's mentioned, and that's in Chronicles. Let's check that out.
I believe that there's a midrash about Serach.
Okay.
And that somehow she is connected with music.
Well, as we know, the midrashim were written between the 8th century CE. That's called Asher. So see how that would.
Right, you're breaking up.
Hello. No. Hello. Hello.
Sorry, I have a phone.
Yeah, no problem. I'm just gonna mute you. Just let me know when you're done, and I'll bring you back. Well, again, Asher Yimnam, blah 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 blah. V'serach achotam. So either Yaakov had only one, and everyone else in the entire clan was males, which is statistically almost impossible, or there's some reason that Serach is being mentioned, and I have no idea what is mentioned anywhere else. What we can do is out things up and figure what's going on. Okay, so let's the names of the children is coming. Yaakov, Ruvain. So I'm about in Ruvain. This is the generation in this one. So over 0. Ruvain, we have two. Add another one here. Father. Reuben. Generation. Okay, that makes it a little bit clearer. Maybe I'll just put Gen. Right. Enough. Now, next. Uvenei Ruvain, we did those. Uvenei Shimon. So now we have Shimon. It's over here. That's first generation. I'll put a line here. Bnei Shimon. Yemuel, Yamin, Ohad, Yachin, Sohar, Shaul, Ben Kanaanit. So we have Yemuel, Yamin, Ohad, Yachin, Sohar, and Shaul, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops, sorry. This is Yaakov over here. What more?
I think they just neglected to mention the names of the girls, because if you look at verse 7, he says, his sons and his sons' children with him, his daughters and the daughters of his sons, plural.
Right, I know.
Daughters, plural.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
I know. It's very strange. But then why would they mention Serach? Who is the Serach? Right. She has no importance anywhere else in the entire Tanakh.
Right.
So that's what it doesn't make sense to me.
And how come?
It doesn't make sense. All right, hold on one second. Let's
continue. How come you don't? I haven't heard the name Serach for girls in Israel today.
Well, because nobody ever heard of her. That's why it doesn't make sense that she's included
but here she
in the list. Right, but the point is, she doesn't play. Everyone's heard of the name Dina. I know at least 3 or 4 Dinas, but no one's heard of Serach. because she didn't play any important role.
Right, but
we
she
know
didn't
of.
do anything wrong. She's not a negative personality
I
that
don't
you
think
wouldn't
so.
want to. I mean, it's a name.
All right. Right. All right. So let's do the tally and see what comes out here. So now we're up to the sons of Shimon: Yimuel, Yamin, Ohad, Yachin, Zohar. Yimuel, Yamin, Ohad, Yachin, Zohar, and Shaul, Comment, son of the Canaanite woman. So these are all, I don't know, I have it all in English. Simeon, I should say Shimon, but whatever. Okay. Yachin, Zohar, and Shaul. So that's basically Shimon's family.
So wait a minute, Shimon, the only one that was the son of a Canaanite woman was Shaul,
Yeah,
right? Only Shaul.
it would seem so, yeah. I'll leave it. I have all English names, so I'll just leave it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And let's put a count over here. We should have a count. So one name, insert one column left, count.
But wait a minute. So
Yeah.
the 70 souls that went down
Yeah,
didn't include any women.
they did. They're listed. Dina's listed and Serach is listed. I'm going to show you in a second.
Something doesn't make sense then.
Yeah, you're damn right. Something I know doesn't make sense. Something doesn't make sense. That's why so many commentators have had so many problems with these verses.
Oh.
But let's see if we can make some sense out of it, or at least try. I'm gonna change this just to.
I have a suggestion. Maybe Serach had a soul, and none of the other women had souls.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
I mean, it's kind of the only explanation.
I don't know what that even means. What do you mean they didn't have souls? Are you saying women
It
don't have
says that
souls?
there was 70 souls that went down.
No, nefesh just means nefesh means usually just a body.
The untabulated women didn't have souls.
All right, you're joking, right? That's got.
I don't know. I'm looking for some explanation.
I don't know. You're getting pretty desperate with that.
Right.
Okay, let's go on here and see. Okay, so what we did. Okay, so we did now.
You know, Melech, very often women are kind of considered like cattle or livestock. Often they're mentioned, you know, like neither your who should not work on Shabbat.
Right.
Neither you, your manservant, your maidservant, your cattle.
Yeah.
Women.
I forgot the rest. But but they're not mentioned because they're. But Bruce, that's not the reason they're mentioned along with the animals. They're mentioned along with the animals because these are all categories of people that could be overworked or taken advantage of on Shabbat. That's the reason, not that they're being likened to animals. The ger is also mentioned for the same reason.
All right, so we get back to this thing. All the wives, none of the wives are mentioned,
True. That's actually an excellent point. We know they had wives, and none of the wives are mentioned either.
Right.
But then we are talking about the descendants of Yaakov, right? Maybe the count is. One could say that these are the. Okay, Hakham Yaakov mi Be'er-Sheva. 1 second. Shehem ba'agalot asher shalat v'yikchu and yavu Mitzrayim Yaakov. So, I think maybe I don't know. That is kind of a good point. That the wives are not being included either. All right, let's finish the tally. Let's try to do this tally here, and then we can maybe make some sense out of it. Let's observe the data first. Let's assemble the data, observe the data, and then make conclusions based on the data. That's the way science works. Okay, so let's try to do that. So we're gonna get. So we did Shimon. Let's do now Levi. So Levi. Okay, so he's number 11 on the count. His father is Yaakov, of course. And I guess I should be consistent here. Jacob, since I'm doing English names. Jacob. And then, where were we? Gershon, Kahat, Merari. We know those from, that's famous from when Levi has made the priestly tribe. So the Gershon, Kahat, and Merari. So their fathers is Levi. Okay, so they're 12, 13, and 14. 14. And that ends that family. Now we go to, next is, oh, Jesus, I just pressed it up. Now we have Yehuda, and Onan, but they died. So Judah is 15. Father is Yaakov, of course. And Onan we don't count because they're dead. Because they looked at naughty magazines. They looked at Play Canaanite. Right?
What are you saying?
They're dead because they looked at naughty magazines. They looked at Play Canaanite.
Oh, okay.
No, it's a bad joke. Right? Because the rabbis said they died for masturbating. Which would mean that basically...
I just got to Onan.
Well, they said, no, the rabbis also say that Aaron died from masturbating too, because they make a hekesh, because it says Onan was also evil in the eyes of God. This is in Leviticus 20:35. And it says Onan was also evil in, yeah, it says Onan was also evil. What Onan did was also evil in the eyes of God, and he died too. So they say, well, Aaron and Onan did the same thing. So they both were put to death for masturbating, which would mean that about of the 7 billion people.
So we're including the grandchildren too, right?
Well, I'm including whatever names are mentioned, but Aaron and Onan are not going to be included in the count because they're dead.
Right.
Okay? Their father is Judah.
Right.
And then we have Shelach and Peretz and Zerach and Chetz. Okay, so let's see here. Then we have Shelach, Peretz, Zerach. Shelach, Peretz, and Zerach. So their father is Judah, Shelach, Peretz, Zerach. So Shelach is 16, Peretz is 17, Zerach is 18. And
what about Leah? She died already, right?
No, it doesn't say that Leah died. Leah, as far as we know, is still alive.
Okay, so we count her in.
And that's also actually an excellent point. It doesn't even mention Leah in the count. I'm not going to count. I'm only going to count the names that are mentioned, and then afterwards we could try to figure out. But I want to these are actually.
But you're going to count Leah.
Points.
You're counting Leah?
I'm not going to count unless the name is actually mentioned. But I'm going to make some notes here.
Ele b'nei Leah. In 15, Ele b'nei Leah asher yalda liYaakov.
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, fair enough, because sometimes it says B'nai Ruvain. It doesn't mention the person himself. That's actually a good point. But it doesn't mention, okay.
No, it's kind of like a summary of the Leah children.
Okay. Right. I think so. I think it's not mentioning Leah, but I'm going to keep that in mind as we go through the list. Okay. Okay. Oh, shoot. Okay. So, any rate, so then we're up to Zerach. Yamat Erev Onan be'eretz Canaan. So Aaron and Onan died in the land of Canaan. Vayihu b'nei Peretz. So now we have Peretz. That's, of course, the line of David. So I wonder why it only mentions the line Peretz and not Zerach. the children of Zarach. Maybe he didn't have children at the time. Any rate, Bnei Peretz. So we have Chetzron and Chamul.
Oh, but you know what? In the summary, they summarize, and it says Shloshim v'Shalosh.
Yeah, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to the partial tallies. That's what I have here. You see tally over here? We'll get to that. And that'll give us a better idea of what's going on. Okay, so that's basically that family. That's the family of Yehuda.
It's interesting. It says Shloshim v'Shalosh, but I get Shloshim v'Chamesh.
One second. Let's see. We're going to get to that. One second. So now we're up to Yisachar. So Tola, Upua, Yov, Yov, not Eov, which starts with an Aleph, Yov, and Shimron. So Tola, Pua, Yov, Shimron, and Yisachar. So Yisachar, Tola, Pua, Yishov, and I'm sorry, what was that again? And Shimron. Okay. Yeshub? What is it? Yeshub? Job? I don't know what it says. Job, Pua. I'm going to call him Job. I don't want to get him confused with the other Job. So, Yov, upon Jab. Not really the best. Pua, the Yov. I'll call him Yov. Yov. Okay. So Yisachar, and these are the children of Yisachar. So Yisachar's father is Jacob, obviously. Then we have Tola, Pua, and Yov. These are the children of Yisachar.
Okay, what about Zilpah?
Wait a second. Wait a second. We're gonna get to this. Just 1 second. So, and Shimron. Okay, so that's that plan. So we can put a line here. And this is 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Okay. Now we get to Zvulun. Bnei Zvulun, Sered, Elon. Interesting. So that's a common name today. Elon. Yachlael. I love that name, Yachlael. It's a beautiful name. So this is Jacob. And these are the sons of Zvulun. 26, 27, 28, 29. Okay. And then Ela b'nei Leah, Asher Yalda liYaakov bePadan Aram ve'et Dina bito. Kol nefesh banav u'benatav 33. So here's Dina is 30. So Leah, I'm not sure whether we should even include Leah. I'm going to put a question mark next to it. Oops. Leah. I'm going to leave it out for now. I'm going to leave her out for now. And we'll see. Maybe we want to go back and include. And then Dina. Oops. Yeah, she's also female. So females get this color.
You know what's interesting? I know you're not up to it. I'm a little bit ahead of you.
Yeah, no problem.
In 23, it says, Ubnei Dan Hushim.
Yeah.
It doesn't say Uben Dan. It says Bnei Dan. And it's one name.
Okay, that's a good point. Let's get to that. That is actually an excellent point. So Leah, we're not counting right now, and Dina. So if I counted correctly,
Kol nefesh shivim. All right.
כל נפש בניו ובנותיו 33. Well, I'm only getting, so the tally here is 33, but I'm only getting 30, unless we include Leah, Er, and Onan, which doesn't make any sense. So that
Okay,
doesn't
I
make
got
any sense
10,
at all.
20, 30, 40, 50, 60. I get 72.
Well, again, it all depends on how you count it, but I'm talking about the intermediate tally that we have here, right? So let's first go for this intermediate tally that we have here in verse 15. The children of Leah. אלה בני לאה אשר ילדה ליעקב בפדן ארם ואת דינה ביתו כל נפש בניו ובנותיו 33. So I don't understand how that gets to 33.
And actually, there's Yaakov. I forgot Yaakov. So
We can
I get
include, but Yaakov is
73.
not the children of Leah.
No. I'm
Ela b'nei Leah.
Okay.
So if we include Leah and we include Aaron and Onan, but we can't include Aaron and Onan because they're dead as a doornail. I don't know. Oh, I counted wrong. That's my problem. 1 second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, I know you can do this automatically in Excel, but let's do it manually just to make sure I don't make any mistakes. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. We're not counting Leah quite yet. 32. So if we count Leah, then we get 33. So maybe we have to count Leah. Let me just check one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, blank, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. If we count Leah, we get 33. So maybe we should count Leah for now, tentatively. 32, 33. Then that would be in line with what we get.
Okay,
Maybe that would be because Leah certainly was still alive as far as we know.
Okay, I didn't count Leah in my tally, and I didn't count Dinah, and I didn't count Zilpah, and I didn't count Bilhah,
Well,
and I
Dinah
get
was-
73 with Yaakov.
I don't know how you do that, but I don't know. You must be a non-Euclidean math whiz or something like that. Because I don't know. Well, let's see. Anyway, if I count Leah, then we get 33, which matches with this tally here. If we count Leah, but let's go on. You still want to continue this, Bruce? Or are you getting tired?
I'm getting tired,
Yeah.
and also I have to leave
All right.
soon.
All right.
My sister's having an unbirthday.
An unbirthday, meaning we
Yeah.
don't celebrate birthdays because we're not Egyptians. So it's an
No.
unbirthday.
No, her birthday was
Oh.
December 9th,
Okay.
Thursday.
Yeah.
But I made a surprise party for her Wednesday.
Ah.
And then her daughters took her out on Friday.
Uh-huh.
Today is Saturday. We're having another birthday party for her, like a music get together.
Oh, that's nice.
So she has 4 days of partying.
Wow, that's nice.
It's
Well,
it's her big 70th.
oh my gosh, wow, that's crazy. Wow.
You're in your 60s, no?
No, not in my 60s.
No,
No, I'm in my
50s.
50s, early 50s.
Early 50s.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. What was I going to say? Well, I guess maybe. Do you want to continue, or are you going to get going now?
I don't know. I get 73. I tallied them all up.
All right. So you want to stay another 5 or 10 minutes, and we'll figure it out, or you want to get going?
Okay.
Right, let's continue. So we're up to Leah, including Leah. The tally works at 33 in verse 15. And let me just write down. This is in verse 15. Oops, where'd we go? Okay, and this is verse 15. I could just put this here. Comments, verse. This is 6:15. Okay, so all right, Genesis 46:15. We get this tally of 33. Okay, B'nai Gad. So now we have Gad. Ziphion, Hagi, Shuni, Etzbon, Eri. Oh my God, he had a big family. Gad, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Gad and 7 children. So that's Gad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That brings us down to here. So this is going to be 34.
I included the grandsons. Maybe that's why my tally is high. Maybe they didn't include the grandsons.
Well, father, Leo. It doesn't matter. I'll put that in parentheses. But it's irrelevant. Actually, I'm going to just leave it out. Is Yaakov, of course.
Maybe the grandsons weren't of age, so they weren't tallied.
It does say Taf, and Taf means babies, basically, or toddlers. But maybe. Let's see. Okay, now we have God. And now we have his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 children. So these are the 7 children of God.
And no grandchildren.
Well, maybe, let's see. Maybe they'll get to the grandchildren afterwards. So far, that's just sons. Actually, grandchildren were mentioned already. The children of Peretz were mentioned. Here's a generation. Okay, so one is Jacob himself. I'm sorry. Yeah, one is Jacob himself. The sons of Jacob are generation 1. The grandsons are generation 2. And the great-grandsons are generation 3. So what
Are you going back to Yitzchak? What are you talking about?
No. I'm not going back to Yitzchak. Judah's generation 1. Er, Onan, Shelach, Peretz, Zerach are generation 2. Those are the children of Judah. And then we have the children of Peretz. We were given the children of Yaakov's grandson Peretz, Chezron and Hamul. So here we have great-grandchildren of Yaakov.
No.
Yep. In verse.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Children.
So.
Right.
We have not only, and here's great-grandchildren again. We'll get to it in a second. Okay, so now we're up to Asher. So Asher, Yimna, Yishva, Yishvi, Bria, Userach, Achotam. So here's our Serach. But first we have Asher, Yimna, Yishva, Yishvi, and Bria. So 4 sons. Yimna, Yishva, Yishvi, and Bria. So here we go. So their father is Jacob, obviously. And the father here is Asher. Down to Serach. Oops, let's do this again. So
it's 4 sons and 1 daughter.
Right. 1 second.
And then 2 grandsons.
1 second. So, by the way, purple means, or pink means, maybe I should make it pink to make it even more clear. Let's see if we can get a nice pink going here. Pink. I don't really see pink. That's the closest. All right, we'll just leave it like that. Okay, so that is Asher's family. And this gives us, including 42, 43, 44, 45, 46. That takes us down to Serach, who's a girl. Okay?
Melech, I want to ask you something that's unrelated to this.
Yeah.
Which prophet spoke about the restoration of Israel and that the new moon is the sign?
That was Jeremiah, right? For sure. In Jeremiah
I
chapter
thought it was
32,
Jeremiah
right?
31, 32, but I went and I looked and I reread it, and I don't see it there now.
Okay. You want me to check very quick? It's Jeremiah 32.
Which chapter?
32, I believe.
I thought that's what it was.
It's the new covenant. An everlasting covenant where I will never stop doing good to them and I will inspire them. Well, here's the new covenant. So that's Jeremiah 32, 39. I don't know. I guess I don't remember offhand. Is it in the article we wrote many years ago for your Jerusalem?
Yeah.
All right, so let's.
And I even wrote a song called "The Maiden Moon."
Right.
And I don't, maybe I'll have to ask
1 second.
Ashira Yosefa, because she helped
God!
me, right?
What's up with her these days? She became a rabbinite many years ago, right?
Oh yeah.
So
she's
where
living
in Israel, or
she's living in Jerusalem somewhere.
Oh, no kidding. Well, there she is, right there. If you see the screen.
Oh yeah. Huh.
Here's the article. We did 2 articles.
Oh.
Want me to send you the link?
Yeah, please.
Send it to you right now. I'm going to post it here, and you can grab it. And then go to shift. I don't remember where it is. Bruce, we're going to get bogged down too much right now. I thought it was Jeremiah 32, but I guess I don't remember.
Right. I thought it was also.
Right.
And then I went to check because someone wanted to translate it into Hebrew, My Maiden Moon.
Right. Oh, I think we published it here, your Maiden Moon song in this article, right? I believe. Maiden Moon. Here it is. What sign should I put in the sky? Perhaps a crescent jewel. My word is out, so no one can doubt my promise of renewal. Bruce explains that these lines refer to promise in Jeremiah 31. The nation of Israel will cease to exist as a nation when the new moon stops renewing itself, i.e. never. And by the way, I'm going to give you... It was this article I did with you which put me in contact with the Karaites.
Right, I remember.
Yeah.
I remember.
All right,
Yeah,
so
no, I
Jeremiah
see-
31.
Okay, I'll read it again. I don't know. Somehow I missed it. I saw a Michael Rood and Nehemiah Gordon
Yeah,
thing on YouTube recently. It came up. I forget
Right.
who was interviewing whom,
right.
but I was thinking I put those two together.
Oh boy, no comments.
I introduced them to each other.
No comments.
Okay.
1 second. Well, here's Jeremiah 31. We can look through it very quick. I'm just going to skim through here. One second. Children are fine. One second. Here. Okay. Maybe you're getting from here, verse 35. This is what the Lord says. He who appoints the sun to shine by day, who decrees the moon and stars to shine by night.
Maybe,
Only if these decrees vanish from their sight, declares the Lord, will Israel ever cease to
Right. That's it. That's it.
31, 36. Yeah.
31, 33.
36.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremiah.
Yeah, so, but it's not talking about the new moon. He points the sun to shine by day and who decrees the moon and stars to shine by night, who stirs up the sea so that waves roar, the Yehovah Almighty is his name. Only if these decrees vanish from my sight, meaning the sun, the moon, the stars, and the waves, will Israel cease to be a nation before me. So it's not explicitly talking about the new moon.
Uh-huh.
Unless it uses the word chodesh. In the Hebrew, we can look at the Hebrew very quickly. So it's 31, 36. Im yamushu hachukim ha'eleh. Oh, I'm sorry, we have to go back up a bit. Here. כה אמר יהוה, נותן שמש לאור, יומם, חוקות ירח, וכוכבים לאור לילה, רוגע הים, ויהמו גליו, אדוני צבאות שמו. Okay, so it says here Yareach. It doesn't say Chodesh or something like that. So it's not speaking about the new moon. It's speaking about, it's basically.
Yeah, I gotta go.
Are you
All right.
going?
Yeah, I'm coming.
Okay.
Can she go to your house and I'll pick you both up
No.
there?
No, you pick me up and then we'll go to her house.
Okay.
It's not far.
Okay. I'm on my way. Okay, I'm coming.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Yeah, sorry.
All right, let's end it here. Yeah, no, it's fine. It's a good place to stop. But just last word is that it doesn't say anything about the new moon. It's basically a metaphor that's used throughout the Tanakh, which is as long as I swear by heaven and by earth, or as long as the heaven and the earth exist, right? Then such and such will be the case, right? So as long as the moon and the stars and the sun are in the sky, and the waves are in the sea, then Israel will not, Israel will always be my chosen nation, right? So it doesn't say anything about the new moon. It's just a common analogy that we see in the Tanakh that just as heaven and the earth will live forever, so Israel will be my nation forever.
Right.
And on that happy note,
Okay.
let's end
Nice
today's
seeing
study.
you.
Yeah, maybe next week or maybe during the week if I have time, I'll try to go through the rest here. But or maybe next week I'll try to go through the rest because we almost got to the 70 and maybe we can make some sense out of it. But the study's gone on long enough.
73.
All
Okay.
right. All right. Shavua Tov, Bruce. Okay. And Shavua Tov, everyone. Thank you for tuning into the study. This is Hakham Melech Ben Yaakov of the World Alliance of Qara'im and of Qara'im Insights, signing off, wishing you all a Shabbat Shalom and a Shavua Tov.